Welcome, everybody.
Welcome, everyone, to tonight's Midnight Ranting. Did Jesus fulfill prophecy? Where we put the rabbi in the hot seat and ponder if he was the Messiah. So, won't you join us for the oven hot prophet 2,000 years in the making? Now, we're a skeptic channel, but after James and I finish our opening statements, we'll be opening up the floodgates, meaning that this will be an early open mic episode where anyone can join us and say what's on their mind. We'll also give everyone the chance to have their opening and closing statements. So, with that being said, did Jesus fulfill prophecy? Well, if you ask my Jewish family, they would probably chuckle. Jews look at Protestants or Catholics the same way that Protestants or Catholics look at Mormons or Muslims. Sure, it's flattering to have others include you in their canon. However, other religions' miracles and prophecy claims always seem ridiculous to outsiders. The Jews were looking for a warrior king who would take back Jerusalem, which means the true prophet of the Jews is the United Nations, who in 1948 created the country of Israel after World War II came to an end. The prophecy has come to pass, and it was by a group of humans working to make it come true. We see, when seen through that lens, it's not quite as impressive. I know that many Christians will claim a multitude of prophecies that have come true in the New Testament, though I'm unaware of any Jew, Muslim, or atheist who would accept such claims, let alone scholars of the scientific community. As a wise, bald man once said, "It's not prophecy if I put in an order for a medium rare steak and the server brings me a medium rare steak." Sure, we can say a prediction was made, then came true. However, events were put into place to ensure these predictions would come true. And hell, we would even be angry if the prediction came back wrong. Thus, the skeptic is asking for prophecy that is specific, testable, and not with humans doing the fulfillment part. Until such time, we have no reason to think that Jesus was fulfilling prophecy. All right. After James, we'll switch into our open mic format. When that happens, look for the link in chat to come join our Midnight Ranting live stream, or send me your questions, comments, or thoughts to be read on screen by tagging me at Amy Newman. After the show, we'll be heading over to Discord for some chilling. Lastly, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that all button icon so you can get live reminders. And if you'd like to support the show, we offer some unique perks with the aim of creating more content at patreon.com/Amy Newman, including awesome Patreons like KO Champ and Oz from the Atheist Roundtable. Okay, so how are you, James? And did Jesus fulfill prophecy?
Well, thank you, Amy. That was a really good intro. Oh, my dog's barking. He must be Jesus. Ryder, quiet.
Hi,
Thank
puppy.
God. Yeah. So, did Jesus fulfill prophecy? This was a good debate with Matt Dillahunty and Samuel. The answer is, of course, no, because there is no clear prophecy, because the prophecies are only conjured up by people who read the text desperate to find something that points to their God, aka Jesus Christ in this case. The Jews who have been studying these texts for centuries don't seem to be convinced, but the people who cling to Jesus Christ, they do seem to be convinced. And that's where the Bible comes in with being very vague. It's very open. It's not specific in a lot of places because if you can be specific, you can narrow things down. And therefore, when something is very vague and very open, it's very easy to twist and turn it to mean just about anything. So you can take just about any event and try and find verses that parallel to it. It's kind of like the prophecies of Nostradamus, where they're very vague and they're very, very illustrative, and you can take almost any natural event and find something that parallels with something he said, but that's not very convincing for anybody who is reading it with a skeptical mind and a who's looking for truth. And we're just looking for truth wherever it may be, not specifically either way. I want to know the truth. I know Amy does too, and that's what we're looking for. And although this was a very civil debate, a very good debate, and Matt did very well, but I didn't hear much in terms of evidence from the other side. Did you?
Nope. I'm always waiting for. We seem to have gotten into some passages where he hinted at prophecy being fulfilled. I would like to see it be tied together and how it's so amazing that it proves a God.
Well, I mean, we've already seen how they can take these very basic, very vague, very short passages, one or two paragraphs, and develop hundreds of pages of theology just based on that.
And I will say, if you disagree with us, theists, false stripes, come on board. Atheists, come on board as well. We welcome everyone. Tell us what you think. We're Midnight Ranting. Did Jesus fulfill prophecy?
Okay, you know what I'm going to say, Amy, so just cut me off at the pass. She doesn't what? She doesn't bite. She doesn't bite, Christians. Come on in. She's not going to bite you.
Unless you like that.
There you go.
Then I'm here for you.
Only if you want her to, then she will. But otherwise, no. She's not going to bite your head off. We won't flood the world. We won't send anybody to hell. We won't, do anything like that. We won't send flies to your house or frogs, even for that matter. You don't want that. No.
Yeah. No plagues will be sent for non-belief in us. And speaking of lovely theists, Will, how are you doing tonight?
There he goes. Welcome, Will. Thanks for coming on.
I'm good. I don't know why that's flickering like that.
Must be God.
The Matrix, it's breaking down.
I don't know. That's never happened before, but I hope if it's too distracting, I'll go to mic only. But I think Matt won the debate.
Oh, hey, exactly. I was going to say.
Well, yeah.
So we're Midnight Ranting. The topic is, did Jesus fulfill the prophecy, the debate itself, or the topic, or the whole shebang?
Yeah, Matt won the debate simply because of the fact that from the very beginning, he used the exact wording of the question from his logical perspective in order to kind of knock Sam off of his game. And honestly, up until the very end of the debate, I don't think that Sam was necessarily. Hey, there we go.
That's okay.
Reset. I fixed the problem. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think that he kind of knocked Sam off of his game, and Sam was, until the very end, except for the very end, Sam wasn't very clear on his position, because even in the chat, I called Sam an Arminianist. I didn't know he was a Calvinist until the very end, when he actually owned up to his theology. So I think if Sam would have kind of done that at the very beginning, and then once Matt shifted from a theological argument to a logic argument, if he would have taken that on, he maybe could have reined Matt back in a little bit, and then would have been able to actually present his opinion. Because of the position that Matt took, he really wasn't even allowed to really present his evidence.
His own evidence.
Matt denied it immediately based on the position that he took at the beginning of the debate. So I think that that's that was really the big issue. So I think that was kind of the difference between Randolph and I's debate and this debate with Sam and Matt was I kind of laid that ground rule real early, knowing that he disagreed with it, but it allowed us to have a discourse on the actual topic because I kind of set the ground rule. Whereas in this debate, Matt set the ground rule and Sam didn't try to play on his playground, so to speak. So,
well, if I could ask you real quick, Will, what would you have done different? What would you have presented that you didn't hear tonight?
Well, I mean, in the comments, for people that watched the debate, I posted 2 comments for that, and using Matt's own position, I gave him a logical response to that, saying, "So, if we can't be certain of anything, then does that not make your presumption of that he didn't fulfill prophecy just as invalid as a position that he did fulfill prophecy?" And it kind of set Matt back. And the first time he kind of skipped the answer and I put it back in again. And then he had to actually kind of acknowledge the fact that he wasn't presuming, he was just making the most, you could say, evidential argument from his position, which is a presumption, technically, if you were to go to by the word. And then once you kind of set that logical framework of, okay, you're wrong and I'm wrong, now let's talk about the actual topic, you can kind of actually get into the nitty gritty of the debate versus going back and forth of Jesus didn't exist or he did exist, right? Because it's logically obvious. If Jesus never existed, then he didn't fulfill prophecy, right? So, I mean,
yeah.
I almost made that in my opening statement, but I was like, it's off topic, not off topic, because you're exactly right. Because, I mean, that's a prerequisite, right? If there's no Jesus, then...
But I think Matt cut that off because he kind of said, assume we're just going to go with that Jesus was real with the debate, because you kind of have to, because it's not a debate on the historicity of Jesus, it's a debate on prophecy. If you want to have a debate just on did he exist or not, that's a totally separate matter. But to go in with this debate, you kind of have to just assume that he did and then deal with that from there.
Yeah, and I think that the real difference is that he pinned on to the specificity of the prophecy versus the completion of it, right? So in Scripture, there's like 300 possible prophecies for the Messiah, which Messiah in context, based on, especially if you come from the books of prophecy, all of those books, every word in them is prophecy. If it comes out of the prophet's mouth, right, theologically, then it's prophecy. He may be saying it in a present text format to the people, to his audience, right? But what he's saying is a prophetic word. And so I think if Sam would have kind of taken that position, if he would have laid some logical framework down to get Matt and had been honest from his Calvinistic viewpoint, because at the very end of the debate, you notice that once he was honest with his actual theology, Matt respected him.
Comes back, sure. And let me bounce off that point. There's not nothing that annoys me most, but a pet peeve of mine is when theists of any stripe argue from what they think is, I guess, in their opinion, what they think is the most attractive to atheists and not the reasons of why they actually believe. Like, I want to know why you believe, why they believe, what convinced you, and should I believe that type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's critical, right? If you don't do that, then you've lost the debate before it even started, right? If you try to go, I guess you could say, use flowery language or kind of make your theological viewpoint less offensive to the non-believer, you've already lost, right? Because they'll call you out on it, especially a smart person like Matt. He's going to call you out on it 100 times out of 100.
It's being politically correct. People feel it.
Because the gospel is what it is. It's kind of hard to present that without offending anybody, because
absolutely.
it is
and
what
once
it is.
Once you're disingenuous, you've already lost, right? So.
And that's true. And we like Christians who defend what the Bible says. We get theists who say slavery is good because it's in the Bible. And then there's theists who come across and say, well, it was in the Bible, but it's not good. But God was just going with it because it's what people did,
Yeah. I just think that's a little I think I don't understand why people are scared of the theology that they believe in, right? If that's your belief, why be fearful of the truth that you believe?
Well, let me put my Christian hat back on, and I'll say because they're in love with the world, because they care about the opinions of man, not what God says, you know?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think I'm catching that's what maybe makes me a little bit unique to the theist world, is that I'm not afraid to strictly go with what my theology is. Whether it may not be the most reasonable position from the secular worldview, but that's what I believe. And as long as I'm honest to that, I think people will respect you. And I think that was Sam's probably biggest fault. Is Matt kind of got him on the thing of, whether it was moral for God to, not give you a choice if that's the rule, the things that he set down, and Sam kind of backed away from that instead of really embracing that Calvinistic theology of, yes, God is responsible, overarchly of that. And if he would have said that right then and there, I think Matt would have kind of respected him a little bit more, and I think the debate might have taken a little bit of a different turn.
And you would have gotten to better conversation faster, instead of having to fish out what people actually mean. It's like, okay, now we're at our ground zero. Let's begin to talk.
That's the biggest thing in debating, is finding common ground as early as possible, right? And so, I mean, that's why I threw out the Sam Harris lines, even though it was analogous to my position of not having free will. It gave us common ground almost instantly as soon as I threw that out there, and we were able to actually talk about the topic rather than debate the logical points of our
the finer points.
Worldviews.
Well, if you don't agree on definitions, I think you end up just talking past each other. And so, our fourth person, welcome, Jay. How are you tonight? And we're midnight ranting on did Jesus fulfill prophecy? The debate and the topic.
Oh. Jay,
can you hear us?
Can you hear us?
I'm still here. Yeah, I just turned off my camera.
No, Will. Right. We're trying to hear Jay. Jay, are you there?
That's okay.
He can chime in when he wants.
So I'm gonna mute your mic, Jay, just because we're getting a little bit of an echo. But then when you're ready, just unmute your mic, and we'll be good. We said 1 second, chat. So he's getting things worked up.
When he's ready, yep, we'll bring him back.
Sounds good. But yeah, let's see. Because I did take some notes throughout. I did like, Matt asking about specifics, because that is kind of what we want. We don't want this wishy-washy. You were quoting. That is what I think people do with Nostradamus. I do think, if you wait long enough, any of the terrible events that people write, if you say World War III, well, will a war that includes everyone eventually?
Eventually, probably, yeah. Yeah. And that's where the vaguity comes in, because you can twist and turn events and meanings and whatever and try to make it fit that paradigm that was written before.
And I'm sending a lot of love in chat. If you want to see your comment on screen, or you want to ask the hosts their thoughts or feelings, just tag me and Amy Newman and I'll bring it up.
Now, we did see that tonight Samuel got into the same trap that Sal got into, and you should know this makes Matt very mad, is when you insinuate that he will not believe no matter what type of evidence you present him. And then he blows up at that, because, at that point, he views it as a challenge to his integrity. Like, if you presented him with overwhelming evidence, he would still say no because of, a preconceived bias. But, that makes Matt very mad. And that happened tonight, too. Yeah, that's my cat, Brian. Yeah, he's a meower.
I like cats. That's why I only bring it up.
He wants to be part of the show, he wants to be on the show, so
it's okay. They're good to be hosts. Okay, so He did start with the presupposition of taking the New Testament as true. He did kind of say that twice, which I mean that is why he's a Christian. So, but he I don't know. I just took that as a note because he made that twice. We already talked about kind of how the Jews, there are Jews for Jesus. I specifically aimed my question when I asked it, like, why do the majority of Jews not believe in Jesus? Because I knew there was always going to be that one person that could be like, well, there's the Jews for Jesus, or someone out there.
Yeah, and
the vast majority of them don't. That's
I think Sam kind of made a mistake when he said that Jews misinterpret scripture when he really should have.
I think I had that note. Yeah,
I think he should have framed it as Jews see this situation in the same way that you and I do, Matt. Right? We have different perceptions on the contextuality of the text, and so do they. Right? And so when you put it in that way, it's really hard to argue against it versus making a empirical statement as Jews misinterpret the text. Because someone who doesn't have your theological worldview is going to immediately reject that opinion, right?
Yeah, well, they could say the same thing right back.
Amy, right. When you were in Hebrew school, did they talk about Jesus at all? Did they try to tell you why they don't think he was the Messiah, or they didn't cover him at all?
I didn't know Christmas, like the exact holiday, till like high school, maybe. Middle school. No, they didn't talk about that at all. They talked a little bit. They had like an Israel picture, and then we read the greatest hits versions of the Old Testament, and that's about it. And so we have from Jay Mixon. Do you feel the hard-nosed opposition of Matt intimidates guys like Sam and Sal? Does it throw them off their game? I will say, and see, this is a double-edged sword, because the reason why people, I'm going to say, sometimes give Matt flack is also the exact same reason why I like Matt. And so he has that Christopher Hitchens type of, he is ready for some action in a debate.
He's ready for a brawl, If you want to brawl, he's down for it.
Even though I think he loves everyone, he saw showing respect towards the end, like Will was saying. But
yeah, I've watched dozens of Bill Honey debates, and
what do you guys think?
He's usually pretty level-headed, pretty cool-headed, but certain things really send him over the edge. And we saw a little bit of that today. We saw a little bit of it with Sal, but I think most of the time he's pretty level-headed.
Yeah, I mean, oh, no, you were gonna say?
Yeah, I think that Matt respects people who are willing to debate with him on a similar intellectual level, right? Like his discourse with like Jordan Peterson, for example, was fairly cordial, right?
Civil.
I think that once Matt feels like he can get you in it logically, then he kind of keeps pressing that button until you don't let him, right? So, and that's where Sam lost the debate. I mean, right around 9 o'clock, I was like, this is done already. I was like, let's just go to questions because it's over.
You could feel it from both of them. They were both looking at each other, saying, question.
Yeah, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? We're not going anywhere. Yeah.
But I'm glad they made up at the end, or whatever that is. That they had a fist bump moment.
That kind of happened with Sal too. Like Matt Dillahunty got upset with Sal, and then by the end he kind of walked it back a little bit, and they kind of agreed to be civil.
And I just had a comment. Oh, and so I guess this is aiming at you, Will. Well, they're coming. Who created God?
No one. God is eternal.
Well, there you go.
That word. And I'm gonna leave it at that.
Today's show is brought to you by Le Fin du Monde.
What is that?
Ooh.
What kind of beer is that?
It is a Belgian style triple ale. It's actually really good. It's pretty strong too. It's 9%.
9%. Wow.
Ooh.
Well,
that is
let
nice.
me tell you the famous Ben Franklin quote where he said that beer is proof that God loves us and wants us to be happy, right?
Absolutely. Scripture says that all things created by God are for our good. So,
well, there you go. Praise God. Praise Him.
Praise I am that I am. We just like saying
praise
people's
Jehovah. I am that I am.
Praise
Yahweh, whatever he's
Jehovah.
going as today.
And so, I think Jay, I know you were having sound trouble, but if you want to come back, feel free to come on back in. And we are once again Midnight Ranting. Did Jesus fulfill prophecy? The link is in chat if you'd like to come live stream or tag the hosts at Amy Newman.
yeah, come on. I came here specifically tonight because I thought there was going to be a ton of people to come and try to smash me to death.
Yeah.
I'm waiting.
We're going to start that fire.
It's late. Everybody went to bed, I guess.
It's not that late.
Yeah. I guess depends on where you live, right?
And woohoo! Brian says, I love the atmosphere. Have a Will give an answer and leave it. Oh, thank you.
Well, there you go, Brian. Thank you. Because we're not here to browbeat people into abandoning their religion. We're just here to plant little tiny seeds of doubt, and they will germinate on their own. And if somebody's ready to walk across the aisle, Amy will be happy to go with them.
And we make... And yeah, Will's been a good sport so far.
Always, yeah.
And I'll say, we leave that for our skeptic Bible studies, right? That's where we leave all the... but I will say, we do heart you all.
No, I love this channel, and I love all the people here. And
thank you, Will.
I enjoy. I watch since the first time I came on after my debate with Randolph. I've subscribed and I've watched every video. And
thank you so very much.
Yeah,
we appreciate Christians coming on, willing to come on, because there's not always a lot of them.
Oh yeah, well I like your background, so take that.
Well, thank you.
What's in the background there? What do you see? What do you like, Amy?
I always appreciate a good setup of practical effects. Just nice, fun things. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, simple little key things. I do a lot of for work. I do live streams. If you're into bass fishing, let me know.
Big fisher guy.
Well, yeah, that's my job. Is I design fishing tackle. So.
Oh, well, hey.
Oh, really? I did that in Scouts, but that was, I think, a decade or so ago. But it was a good time.
And then I was hoping Seamus would be here because tomorrow's the North London Derby, and big Arsenal rivalry.
He's been on channels all day today. I saw him in a couple of different streams all throughout the day.
He's been hiding since they tied with Burnley.
I think he was on Speed's channel, and he was on one other channel I saw him on today. But yeah, he's always out there. Who do we have in the back? Is that Bible Burner?
Okay, so we have Bible Burner.
Wow, Bible Burner.
How are you doing tonight? And we're Midnight Ranting. Did Jesus fulfill prophecy?
Call the fire marshal.
I'm good. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. How are you doing, Bible Burner?
All right. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get it working.
No, it's working fine. You're good.
All right. Good to talk to you guys.
Any thoughts about the debate tonight? What did you think about it?
Or the subject, debate or the subject.
Either or, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty amazed that the theist had no cogent examples of what he felt a prophecy might have been.
Yeah, that came up a few times in Matt Dillahunty. You could almost see he was like exasperated, like, what prophecy are you talking about? And he would kind of just beat around the bush and kind of throw a couple of verses out, but he didn't really want to defend any of them very much. So,
yeah, I mean, it's hard to get any. I guess we're always in a weird spot because we say we kind of respect Ken Hovind because he kind of takes more shots, but then the pre-sup is like, well, you're not even defending your claims.
I think it's an impossible position to defend, right? Anything that happens after a prophecy is recorded is impossible to prove that it wasn't fulfilled simply on correlation.
It's difficult, yeah.
You would think that
it's impossible.
You think that a prophecy would have to be like specific, and especially coming from a God, you would think that he would give you a specific place and time something that's not interpretable, and you just don't have them in the Bible.
Yeah, but in the Bible itself, there's not a single prophecy that is in the year 3 BC, a man named Jesus is going to be born, and he's going to be this Messiah, right? There is not a single prophecy in all of Scripture that is that specific, right? So, like the book of Daniel, for example, is full of prophecies, but all of them are vague and very much like the way that Jesus talked, right, in the New Testament through parables, right? Nothing he said was specific, right? He didn't say, "You Pharisees are horrible and you're all burning in hell," right? He gave roundabout the way answers to give people, I guess you could say, brain food in order to come to the opinion, in their own logical mind, right? So it's Scripture doesn't call out specifics, right? So
Why not?
yeah, so why not? I couldn't tell you. That's just the way that God chose, right? So
That would make me kind of think that you can't use Bible prophecy as an argument at all. Then you're kind of beat, because you don't really have a leg to stand on if you're gonna do that.
you definitely can't use Bible prophecy as empirical evidence. Absolutely not. Anybody who tries to do that isn't being honest with the text, because that's not what the text is about. And that's what I think the biggest problem with Christians and apologetics is that they skim over what the actual Scripture is for, the purpose of it, right? And so I think that, like, for instance, if Sam would have said, "You're right, Matt," right? If there is no empirical evidence to substantiate the claim that Jesus fulfilled every prophecy exactly, but there are over 300 scriptures that imply that Jesus is the Messiah, and we have to take that based on faith. If Sam would have been honest with that, I think Matt would have respected him a little bit more. But instead, he tried to come at Matt with, like, "Here's this scripture, here's that scripture, here's this scripture, here's that scripture," and that type of thing doesn't work with someone who is a logical, debater, right? Because once you make an empirical claim, you have to back that up, right? And it's not empirical, so you can't back it up that way.
And so, Bible, you probably were about to have a response, so make that, and then I want to read a comment. And if not, I'll read it.
No, I would just reiterate that if you're going to claim, you can't really claim. First of all, I don't think that you can claim Jesus fulfilled any prophecy, because you can't even prove that he existed.
Well, we were just talking about that. That's funny you bring that up.
You can't adequately even prove that he existed. And even if you're given that, how are you going to prove that any of these prophecies were fulfilled?
And so, okay, we're actually going to give Will one more response, and then we're going to read a comment.
Yeah, there's a huge list, right? To go through all of them would be absolutely impossible, right? So, like, the Messiah would be rejected by his own people. The Messiah would be a prophet. The Messiah would be preceded by Elijah. Messiah's throne would be anointed with eternal. Messiah would be the heir to King David's throne. Messiah would come from the tribe of Judah. The Messiah would be born in Bethlehem, right? So there is no textual evidence outside of the Scripture itself to verify any of those claims, because those claims come from Scripture, right? So if you immediately throw out Scripture as being a mode of evidence, then it's absolutely 100% impossible to substantiate that claim, right? I mean, that's complete logical nonsense to say, yeah, without Scripture, I can totally, justify the fact that Jesus Christ was the Messiah. You can't. That's because those prophecies came from Scripture themselves, right? So that's why it's important, if you're a theist, to come to an agreement with the opposing side, that if you're going to judge Scripture based on Scripture, that you're willing to argue on that point. And then you can start to talk about the details, right? But if you just come from the position Jesus didn't exist, well, if Jesus didn't exist, of course you didn't fulfill Bible prophecy, because the Bible is a worthless book that you could burn, right? So, I mean, yeah.
And okay, before you respond, I just wanted to. So Jay Mixon says, believe it or not, I actually think James Coons was one of the better theist debaters. I actually want to make the comment that I think he's just a really good guy. Well, I know I forget who had
Yeah.
a beef with him on our channel. Who we were
There
just
are,
talking.
there are a few people.
But he's treated us well, and I feel like as far as a theist goes, he's been trying hard.
And before Bible Burner responds, I want to let him know you had some serious critique of me during the debate with Randolph, and let me have it, brother. I am totally willing to answer any question that you have. I'm down with that. No hard feelings at all.
You won't run away. He's always here.
I won't run away. I'm here to listen.
No,
it's Titan.
I had a lot of issues with I have a lot of issues with a lot of things that you believe. I don't have any issues with you as a person. I don't know you. You're probably an all right person. I just think that a lot of things that you believe are, not only really dangerous, they're super immoral, and just I just think they're despicable to be honest with you.
If I could just jump in there, I just wanted to add real quick that a lot of us, most of us, I think at one point were theists, and most of us were probably Christians. And as Matt Dilloney says, I didn't become smarter. I'm not a better person than I was before when I was a Christian. I wasn't dumb before. I just look at things with a little different. And it's like Ken Ham says, you got to put your God glasses on to believe and to understand the Bible. And it's just a matter of taking those God glasses off and looking at it from a totally neutral perspective. And that's where you really run into the problems in the text. But if you read it with those God glasses on, it's going to make sense to you.
Yeah, and I think that Christianity is really only dangerous when people come at it from a dogmatic viewpoint, right? And I know that I beat this drum all the time, but I'm going to tell you right now, I have more battles with fellow Christians than I ever do with someone outside of the Christian faith.
We see it all the time, yeah.
Because people like to put Jesus Christ back up on the cross, right? Theoretically or metaphorically, and try to use him as a weapon in order to beat other people, and that's absolutely wrong, right? So dogma is not a tenet of Christian theology. It is a byproduct of homogeny.
I want to interrupt you guys really quickly. I'll say this, bunnies. This is the one theist or the one Christian where you're probably going to get agreement with because he's a Calvinist. And so I can do this answer for him.
There's absolutely no free will. Absolutely
Praise God. Praise Jesus. We agree completely.
There you go.
I mean, and we've just been reading through Genesis where God numerous times interferes with the Pharaoh with his judgment, and yet some Christians say, oh, free will is absolute. He's got to have free will. But God's telling you, no, I'm hardening his heart.
But do you know what I believe in?
Exits,
I believe in exits. I believe in exits.
Magic.
It's about to be just as corny. It's not about to get any better. But I believe in Will. I can see him. He's right down there. See? There's Will. Boom.
Praise Will. Praise Will.
Will proven. And okay, so we had two come in at the same time, but Randolph, I think you were first. So we're having a midnight ranting on did Jesus fulfill prophecy, either the debate or the topic. What are your thoughts?
Or if you just want to talk Canada.
How you doing? Yeah.
I mainly wanted to say to Will that I really appreciate the way that our free exchange of ideas went in our debate. I really enjoyed that. I consider it to be one of the top debates I've been in because I think everything went so well. So thank you. I really enjoyed that. It was
a very good debate, yeah.
Before we roll on to more conversation, as someone who spent over 13 years in Asia, I have to ask, the Chinese characters in your name, please explain that to me?
That's my Chinese name. It's pronounced in Mandarin Zhang Wendao. So Zhang is my wife. My wife is Chinese, so it comes from her family name, so it's a very common one. I think it's like third or fourth most common family name in China. There's the top 10 people are all very aware of, and so it's just certain family names became very common there. It's just basically all it means. So Wen Dao is very similar to Randolph in its pronunciation. It's kind of fairly close, but those characters mean, the second one there is in the middle is Huan, means writing, or kind of refers to literacy and things like that, and Dao means philosophy. So I do take an interest in written philosophy. I'm a little more familiar with certain Chinese philosophers that that aren't very well known in Western culture, and some people here even disregard as a philosopher. One example would be Sun Tzu Bing Fa, who is the author of The Art of War, or The Art of Warfare. It's been translated and unfortunately mistranslated by just about everybody. So there are a few translations that work very well. None of them are American. I have to say, the American translations tend to include American bias and things and American thinking into it, which tends to be a little bit on the brag about yourself kind of side. I find that gets.
Well, thank you, Randolph. Thank you for that.
Yeah. So, but I don't mean to deride Americans or anything on that. It's just
we know. Yeah, I'm just messing with you.
It tends to bubble through with the culture, I find, and
we are hamburgers.
They bubble through with the cultures usually of the
absolutely
the translations.
So then we have a lot in common, Randolph, because my wife is Asian, not Chinese, but Korean, and I spent 13 years in Korea, and my wife is a Wushu, right? She's her family name in Korean is O, so the Chinese character for Wu in Korean is O. It's pronounced O. And her family came from China to Korea in 900 AD and established.
Wow!
They were,
Okay,
so,
long time.
Yeah. So I mean, there's some
parallels
here.
So, are you a fan of kimchi? Are you a big kimchi eater?
Love kimchi, man. Especially if you barbecue kimchi, it's absolutely phenomenal.
The hotter the better.
Kimchi is good by itself. But barbecued kimchi is even better. Right? You got to try that. If you haven't tried that, you got to try it.
Okay. I haven't. I'm not really a big fan of very spicy food, but I have heard that it will knock your socks off.
The spice goes down. Kimchi is really not that spicy compared to even. So in my business in fishing tackle, 95% of my factories are in southern China, right? So Shenzhen, Guangzhou, that area of China. And I spend at least 3 months a year in China. But kimchi is really not that spicy. And the spice goes down when you actually grill it. So what they mean by grill is not necessarily like on a barbecue, like American style barbecue, but like a flat pan on a butane grill right at your table. And so the spice actually drops, but the flavor increases. Right. So it's absolutely.
I've just heard stories from
pork belly, kimchi.
Yeah. I've just heard stories from people who were in the military over there, and they stumbled into an eatery over there, and they ordered some kimchi, and they were in the infirmary for like 3 days because their mucous membranes were like seared by the heat of it. But just
on a scale from 1 to 10, kimchi.
Maybe they're being hyperbolic. I don't know.
Definitely hyperbolic. It depends on how well you handle spicy foods, right? So for me,
so everything's a 10 for me.
Yeah, so my family was the most favorite restaurant that we ever went to growing up was a Mexican restaurant with jalapenos and all that stuff, right? Jalapenos and nachos. So for me, kimchi is like a 3. If you really want to get it, you get like fried octopus, and that's like a 7 out of 10. I mean, that's some good stuff right there.
Well, praise God for some fried octopus.
I think the parallel is kind of cool. I wanted to try to answer your question as well, and just make one quick note about James' modern day debate. That's how me and Amy met, and it's been fantastic that we got to team up on a debate against a couple of Christians who destroyed their own argument.
Us too.
Answering the question at the end.
Me too, Randolph. I'm in the same camp as you, so yeah.
Yeah.
That's how me and Amy got together for the first time.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
See,
And
debates
James-
bring people together.
Yeah, it's a free exchange of ideas is what I like. The point I like to emphasize with it. The James, I really like. I found him to be a wonderful person to deal with. I know there's a few people who have complaints about him, but I haven't seen it from what they're saying. He seems to be right on the level with things, and yes, he's a Christian, but he makes a point of running the debates impartially. And I encourage him from time to time with us and tell him, you're doing a great job here. Keep it up. And he really appreciates the encouragement. So feel free to send him a note of encouragement if you like his program. He really likes it.
He's a Christian, but he does try to be as impartial as he can be. And he's always treated me very kindly as an atheist. So
at the debate, in the debate program, he's always impartial. That's what I've noticed.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you what. I've been following modern day's debate for probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 months now, right? Watching. Started participating in super chats. He recognized that my questions weren't, extremely bombastic, but he reached out to me and he said, send me an email. I'd like to have you on. And then 2 days later, he's like, debate Randolph, right? Literally, I had less than 48 hours to prepare for a debate. I didn't pick the topic. Right. And so I was like
me too. I didn't have much time.
Yeah, it was like Wednesday. And he's like, Randolph, I was supposed to have Randolph on. The guy that was supposed to debate him kind of dropped out. Would you like to debate on Friday? And this was on a Wednesday.
2 people who dropped out, actually.
I need more time than that.
The first
so I was like, well, since it's a short notice, I'd rather defend the position than attack. Right.
And this was new for me because I'm normally on the defensive. So I thought, yeah, sure, I'll give it a try. Maybe I can learn something here. And so it worked out well. Yeah.
Do we have somebody back there, Amy?
Anna? Yep. So with that, and actually, well, I will say, Randolph, did Jesus fulfill prophecy?
Not that I'm aware of.
There we go, folks. Yeah. We solved the debate. And with that, we're going to bring in KO Champ.
Oh, wow. Coach Champ.
How are you doing tonight? And did Jesus fulfill prophecy?
Is it Champ? Hey, Coach Champ.
Hello, everybody. Hello.
Hi. Coach Champ fit.
Shalom.
And hello, Will, too, as well. I like this guy.
Buddy. Oh, no, man.
And he's over there drinking as well. Look at him.
Praise God.
It comes
Praise God for beer.
Look at that.
There is nowhere in Scripture that condemns drinking. It only condemns alcoholism.
Man, all I got to say is scout.
Yeah.
The thing in mind is awesome, by the way.
What's that?
Yeah, I didn't get to watch tonight's debate. Unfortunately, fortunately and unfortunately, I was out training some guys for upcoming fights. I've got one guy fighting in April. So
you're doing MMA or something else?
Guys recently. What's up?
You're doing MMA or something else?
I have 2 kickboxers and 4 MMA guys.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully your guys do well.
They had a terrible weekend because they haven't had a coach. Their head coach is he's not a good person.
Oh no.
So
I used to teach martial arts, so I have an appreciation for what you're doing.
Well, I'll say this. These guys there were 4 fighters supposed to fight on Saturday, and this guy did not know how to wrap hands.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So
somebody get hurt?
Oh, they will. He will.
But he has them convinced. He has them convinced. He's done all kinds of tournaments and all kinds of things.
Oh, he's one of those.
Yeah.
Is he? Did he get his black belt in a year by any chance?
No, I don't know when he got a black
9 months.
belt.
9 months, Randolph.
He has all kinds of fights.
By mail order.
So fast.
Yeah.
Like Ken Ovan's doctorate,
I mean, like, I'm a
6
fighter.
months.
Anybody can look up my records and stuff. So, I mean, like, I don't know why you can't find his, but
did those guys?
They
didn't injure their hands, did they?
no one injured their hands, but one guy injured his foot.
Okay.
All right. Like the Bible.
So yeah, I didn't get to watch.
That's okay. Did Jesus fulfill prophecy?
I don't think so. I don't believe so. Only because you would have to, which I heard Bible Burner, I think, say earlier. I think you would have to prove that Jesus existed before you could prove that Jesus fulfilled any type of prophecy. And I think in order to prove that Jesus existed, you would have to prove that any Hebraic peoples existed before that in order for them to write down prophecy for Jesus to fulfill. And as of right now, we can't even prove that anyone ever left Egypt. We can't prove that slaves left Egypt or anybody left Egypt or any of that stuff. Go ahead, Will. Go ahead, man.
So you're my boy and all, but I think it's fairly obvious that Hebraic peoples exist.
Hebraic peoples did exist, yes. Yeah, I don't question that. I don't question
before that. About 1000 BC at the earliest.
I would say 800,
yeah.
800 BC at the earliest.
Well, at the latest, but beyond 1000 BC, no independent evidence.
Like I don't want to be nitpicky, but you did just say that there's no evidence for Hebraic peoples to exist, right?
No, I didn't. I didn't say that. What I said was there's no evidence to be provided that Hebraic peoples left Egypt. That's how I said it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
There's no evidence that Hebraic peoples were under some pharaoh where they had, these things that happened and all this stuff. And some pharaoh was like, yeah, you can go. And then some pharaoh followed them. And
I got to say,
Amy,
I got to say,
go ahead, Randolph.
I got to say, this conversation right now is above my pay grade.
Not at all, Randolph. Amy, we just got done with Exodus about the Pharaoh. We know that the Bible is very specific in terms of which Pharaoh we're dealing with. That way you can check it and be accurate and you know exactly when they're talking about, right?
Well, so the argument against that I've heard a few times is that when a Pharaoh was proven not to be a god, that his records would be erased from history because he wasn't a god. However, we see several failed pharaohs still written about in history, and it just doesn't seem to line up. What seems to line up in accordance with the Jesus prophecies is that there was a guy, and I want to say his name was Titus Flavius. He was a Roman
Sounds
emperor.
about right.
Pronunciation is a little off. That's correct. Yeah.
Go ahead, Will. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, man.
I said the pronunciation is a little off, but the point is accepted.
And so there was this pharaoh that happened to do several of the things that everyone projected Jesus to do. And he happened to die 5 years, I think it was. It's 69 to 74, right? 69 AD, 74 AD is when the first book was written. I want to say, don't quote me on the numbers. You feel free to correct me.
You're in the right ballpark, I think.
The earliest confirmed text for Christianity is around 90 AD.
And that would be Mark, was the first one that we have evidence of.
And so I'm going to take it off topic for a single second, and we'll bring it back on topic. For Will, favorite K-pop group, Blackpink, BTS, or Block B?
This is a very interesting question because as someone who lived in Korea for 13 years, I'm not a big fan of K-pop, but I do like K-ballads. And Kim Bum-soo and Shin Sung-eun are exceptional.
There you go. And
Question answered. There you go. Right.
Question answered. And speaking of K-pop, did Jesus fulfill prophecy?
What?
Now that's quite a segue.
Did K-pop prophesy Jesus?
Yes.
Did they? Okay. All right. I thought so.
Well, actually,
for some, it's the true Messiah.
To be honest with you, Korea is the largest Christian country in Asia.
I've heard that.
Are they majority Christian now, or
majority? Yeah.
Over 50. Oh wow.
Yeah, so they have Buddhists, and they also have kind of like a Shinto, like an ancestor religion type group there as well. But Christianity is
Like similar
probably
to
about.
Japan.
Oh, so the difference is that Japan is probably only about 5% Christian, right? The
But
majority
the,
is
the
like kind of
Shinto is
the
similar
Shinto
to
religion.
Korea.
Yeah,
Okay.
but in Korea, Christianity is probably about 50 to 60%. It's a very large majority.
That sounds about
Korea.
right to me. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. And China, it's vast majority are just not into any of that. There's some spiritual stuff with ancestors and things, but not really deities.
And in Korea too, you do have some kind of cultish Mormon type stuff. You have the
Yeah.
moon
Yeah,
faction of
the Moonies,
Christianity,
right?
yeah, the
Yeah.
Moonies, where they actually
Seventh-day
tell you
Adventist.
who you
Oh, the
can
Moonies
marry.
are dangerous.
Yeah, no, they actually select who you marry. When you go to church, you don't get to pick your own wife; they pick it for you.
Yeah, they're horrible. They're a cult, a dangerous
It's
cult.
wacky.
Yeah,
But-
they're whacked out. Yeah.
On the same token, Will,
Bye,
according to your
Colorado
philosophy,
biker.
you don't get to pick your wife because God's picking it for you because it's already predetermined. So, but you hope that God has picked a good wife for you.
So yeah, with my theology, God ordains or predestines, and I voluntarily choose. Right, that's the Calvinist position.
And
So
it sounds like he's done a good job for you.
If you knew Korean wives, I don't know if you necessarily say that because it's if you Tiger Mom times 10, that's a Korean wife.
Woohoo!
How did you like Korea when you were there?
I loved it. It was absolutely amazing. And to be honest with you, you really get to see kind of the. And for anybody who's never lived abroad, I would absolutely suggest that you go and do that because you can immediately see American arrogance immediately, and not just American but Canadian as well. I mean, there was times when, because in Korea there are a lot of English teachers from America, Canada, and England, and once you immediately go there and you see people interact with a culture who doesn't speak English, that literally jump behind the counter at McDonald's and steal French fries out of the fryer.
What?
Because it's you go to a convenience store and a guy buys a bottle of beer and the price is $7 and he complains, yelling and screaming at the cash register because why does it cost $7 for me to get a 2-liter bottle of beer?
That's Korea?
2-liter bottles of beer. Yeah.
Oh.
And it's absolutely ridiculous. I
That's
feel so
definitely not
embarrassed to be
Canadian arrogance,
American.
I can tell you that for sure.
Well, no, I mean, in my school where I taught English. So when I first went to Korea, that was the first job that I had because I'm a college educated person. The first job you can get there really is the easiest job to get is as an English teacher.
Yeah.
So I taught English for about 4 or 5 years. We had Americans, Canadians, Brits, and it was all the same. The behavior of, but granted, these are people in their 20s, so they're not like mature adults, right? So it was absolutely embarrassing to be there. And so my job, the job I had at the school was I was a head teacher because I was a little bit older. I was married to a Korean national, right? So I met my wife in Korea. My wife, her English is fairly poor. I speak fluent Korean. And so for me, my job was to, I guess you could say, be the intermediary between the Korean manager, owner of the school and the English teachers. I was the head teacher. So yeah, people wouldn't show up for work. They would go out and get drunk and not come in. And granted, our first class at an academy was at 1:00. So if you're too drunk to come in at 1:00 in the afternoon, you have major problems that you need to work with.
Oh yeah.
So I've heard of Koreans.
It sounds like they have a problem with selecting people there, and they're not selecting very good people.
Now I've heard a couple times
all the way across, the other side of the world. You can't do an interview other than email. When I was first there, it's back in 2003, 2004, right? So this is before Facebook and all that stuff. So it was really hard to figure out what kind of personality this person is. And then you have to pay for their visa, their plane ticket, and all this stuff from.
Just mute them.
Yeah. KO's out. I don't see.
There we go. I had to cut my YouTube head off. I was just waiting to come in. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Yeah, I was trying to rush.
I know I've seen a couple articles about Korea where a lot of the people over there are so addicted to the internet and technology that I've seen at least 2 articles where parents will go to the hospital, have their baby, and they'll bring the baby home and put it in its crib, and then they won't do anything with the baby for like 4 days until they realize it's dead because they were on the internet the whole time, and it's just like, oh, we forgot our baby completely.
Yeah, so gaming culture is really big there, right? So that has happened. There have been parents. So, for instance, in Korea, they have these computer rooms. They call them PC bangs, and internet gaming is really big there. It's probably the biggest out of all the Asian countries in Korea, and they will a newly given birth mother will go to the computer room and literally neglect her child for a week, who's like 5 days old. It's pretty sad, but
if there's nobody there at home to take care of it,
there's a lot of that goes on, but that's not commonplace. That's one-offs here and there, but
just every once in a while. But I just remember seeing that. You don't see it too often other places. I guess it does happen, but.
Yeah, and if you want to base Asian culture on American culture, they're far more xenophobic than we are, for sure, 1,000 times.
I know that to be the case. I'm familiar with some of that going on in China, and it's weird the way it is in China. In some ways, there's people are also wanting to be like Caucasian people, and they're going to great lengths some of them to get their skin color changed by bathing in milk and other things. And milk's pretty harmless to bathe in, but sometimes they're doing some things that are pretty messed up. And they try so hard. And what's happening, like I meet people coming from China because some of my clients are dealing with immigration. So I meet lots of people and from China.
So Randolph, what you're trying to say is there is a Asian version of the weeaboo? That's fantastic.
Wow, yeah.
Only you, Amy.
Awesome.
The thing is, like, they'll come here, and there's
I'm Kylie.
Trick. There's this really weird, deceptive trick that quite a few end up falling for. Is they see these white people running some churches. So these Catholic churches do this, especially, and then they'll go there and say they want to be like white people. So the church says, "Oh, you need to read the Bible because all white people are Christians." And so they do this, they diligently study it and memorize and all this stuff. And then they come here expecting to talk to everybody about Bible and trying hard to fit in, right? And then they're shocked. Some of them don't believe that there are people here who are not white people who are not Christians. Others are shocked and kind of ticked off that they've been lied to and wasted a whole bunch of time. And there's quite a strong difference with those. There's not a lot of people in between, I find. So and then there's lots of people coming over. It's increasing that there's more people coming over who didn't fall for that, but it used to be that this was a more common scam that the Catholic Church was playing on people, lying to them about what white people are, Caucasian people are. It's just it's gradually improving, but it's just like I thought, this is disgusting, right? So
be nice to.
You're playing on this idea that. Instead of telling people, you should be uplifting them and saying, hey, you are who you are, and this is what you should really try to work on, and feel comfortable with yourself, be free. Instead, they're saying, oh yeah, go ahead. You've got this strange idea of you want to be like white people, so here's how you do it, and they're taking advantage of it. And I don't think that's ethical.
So Jay Mixon says that happens a lot in Jamaica as well. So.
I guess color me surprised.
When I was in Korea, I experienced a lot of, I guess you could say, positive racism. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can see an oxymoron, but I know what you mean. Yeah.
As in they have good stereotypes about us or something like that?
So for white folks, so for Asians, it's all about economic status, right? So for
That's
them,
very common. Yeah.
monetary value is extremely important, right? So what car you drive, what house you live in, what town you live in, the Jones is a very important.
In China, it's also education level.
Sure, yeah. What college you went to? Like for instance, you
No,
could go
no,
to
not which college. How well you did in school.
in Korea, which is this is absolutely ridiculous in my mind. But so for Korean education, they go to school from 6 o'clock in the morning until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And then they go to an additional academy from 4 o'clock in the afternoon till midnight. And I'm talking from like middle school on to high school, right?
Yeah.
And if you graduated from the Korean equivalent of MIT, you are lower than a guy who graduated from WKU in Kentucky, right? Western Kentucky University in Kentucky, which is a small like Division 2 or 3 school, simply for the fact that you graduated from an American university, puts you into a higher social status than somebody who went to the Korean equivalent of MIT, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's an absolutely absurd level of inflating. So like when I first went to Korea, 2003, 2004, you go to the subway, and because you're a tall white guy, people, fawn over you or whatever. And at first the attention was gratifying, but as time went on, right, every time you get into an elevator, somebody talks about how big your nose is or how tall you are, or you get into a taxi and the taxi driver asks you to teach him how to speak English. It gets really annoying after a while. So, although it's, I guess you could say, a positive form of racism, rather because it's a positive stereotype versus a negative stereotype, it's still extremely
Annoying,
especially when you walk into a gas station to buy a thing of cup ramen, and you have, high school students screaming, "It's a foreigner! It's a foreigner! Oh my God, it's a white guy!" Especially when you're the only white guy within a 100-mile radius of where you live. It's frustrating. Let's put it that way. So,
Yeah.
let's say that I can empathize greatly with the struggles of minority groups in America, simply for the fact that I lived overseas for 13 years in a place where I was a minority.
got perspective.
Yeah, perspective.
I think that's quite fair. Yeah.
And okay, so I think KO, is it Co or KO? You've told me a million times, but now
Everybody just calls me
James.
Champ, man. Everybody just calls me
KO.
Champ. It's KO Champ. FT.
It is KO Champ. That I
There's no way
was
to
saying
say
it right.
I'm
It's
sorry.
like not to
I was
be
calling you KO.
politically incorrect, but if you call me Cock Champ, I mean that's like people have said that.
That's asking for trouble.
That's me
It
right
wouldn't be-
here, good
It wouldn't
sir.
be cock
Me
champ.
right
It would be
here.
cock hamp, right?
Yeah, I don't like it either way. Like I just prefer Champ, or I would prefer better than fucking Cock Champ.
I was thinking KO Champ Fit, but I see it's not the word fit.
So it'd be like Knockout Champ, Frank the Tank.
Oh, Frank the Tank. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Like old school Will Ferrell,
You're my
boy,
Blue.
Trying to
Yeah,
do
you're
a
my
Will
boy,
Ferrell
there you
impression.
go. Yeah, exactly.
I
That
have to
dude.
go. I just wanted to pop in and get a chance to say hello to everybody. And so thanks for hosting these wonderful streams, Amy. This is another winner, in my opinion.
Well, thank you so much. Are you about to head off, Randolph?
I do have to head off. But
So my last question for you is just the closer. Did Jesus fulfill prophecy?
you asked me that question earlier.
Oh, was that? Well, this is your closer. You're closing.
Your short-term memory shot today for some reason.
No. You have an opener and a closer. You're leaving, right?
Yeah. Did Jesus predict this, that I was leaving?
Probably.
I
Where in
don't.
Canada are you from? Where in Canada are you at?
I didn't hear
Just the
quite.
province. You don't have to give an
Which
exact
province
city.
am I in? I'm in British Columbia.
British Columbia. So that's the middle, right?
It's
So it's
the westmost province of Canada. We're
Too
just
bad
about
it's not
the state of
Saskatchewan,
USA.
where all the
then
good
it's
stuff
like
happens.
it's like 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock where you're
Yeah,
at,
it's
right?
at 22:30 hours here. It's that's 10:30 p.m. Yeah, Pacific time.
It's 1:30 where I'm at.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
No,
Same
1:30.
here.
I'm tired
1:30.
today because I was up late for a client last night for an emergency call. It had me up until about 3:30 in the morning at their
A
site.
boat?
Yeah.
Have
A
me up
maple
to a boat?
syrup emergency.
Yeah, so all my clients are all my not necessarily my clients, but the people that I'm a customer of are in China. So I'm up till like 4 o'clock in the morning every day.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's why I'm able to come on these streams as well as I do.
Oh, great. Yeah, well, I'm once in a
You're a
while
night
I
owl
have to.
too, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I have to go on site. Most of it I'm able to do remotely, but sometimes you have to go and push a power button to turn a server on, and that's just how it
Oh.
goes.
Thank you, Titan. That's a
Gotta
good
reset it.
website. Canadian
Yeah.
Atheist. Good site.
That's correct. Yeah, Canadian Atheists. We're on our purpose right now. We're particularly interested in seeing atheism become normal in society, and we have a campaign going at www.normalizeatheism.ca. But the link that Titan is showing is for the Canadian Atheists at www.canadianatheists.
I'm with Will, man. Boo to atheism.
What?
Boo!
Look,
Atheism.
Or you,
I don't
you
have
can go
any
see
problem
Will.
with atheism at all, right? To be honest with you, according to my theological worldview, there's only two possible options: theism and atheism.
Yeah,
I have no
and
problem with atheism. So,
that's actually correct because atheism is not taking an aggressive position against theism.
I'm-
It
I mean, I
isn't
guess according
theism.
It isn't inherently anti-theistic, is what I'll say.
Well, boo to you too, Will.
I was just gonna say, I guess according to Will, he can't really be that hard on us because if God doesn't allow us to believe, we can't believe. So it's not really our fault because we
Not
were
your
made
fault.
that way. Yeah, it's just how we were made.
Not your fault at all.
This is what I liked about debating with Will is the conversation went in these directions. It was so refreshing. It's a nice change from the usual, like
Hey,
people
man.
like Darth Dawkins who are complete extreme.
I will tell you that it was sometime last week where I went out for my fights, coaching stuff, and me and Will were over here, and I'm like, I really want to talk to this guy after this because it's very refreshing. It's very refreshing to talk to someone like him,
Yeah.
even though he keeps that
Yeah, then we went to Discord, and I think I talked to him a little bit, so I kind of spoiled your party there.
I
but
keep
yeah.
waiting
It was still a good
for-
conversation.
I keep waiting because Wits Against It has that really calm voice for a little while, and I keep waiting for like the Wits Against It to come out of him, but it never does. So,
You're waiting for him to talk about the dome and the
no.
whole
I was
Antarctica-
waiting for him to start waiting.
The
waiting
dome?
for him to
I'm not a
start
flat
picking up
earther.
words
dome.
valid.
Yeah,
Our
yeah.
whole
Well, Wits
debate-
Against It is.
Our whole debate was like that. Neither of us raised voices. It was just calm all the way through.
Just the whole
But
word
honestly-
salad is what I'm waiting for.
For a platform like Modern Day Debate, I think it hurt me because I'm not the dumpster fire, and it
No, it
seemed
didn't.
like
Actually, James told me afterwards that he's been getting a lot of really nice comments about people really enjoying the debate. And I've seen some comments around people saying they liked it for a change, not having not seeing a fight, but seeing something that came across as they thought was professional.
Something intellectual for once.
well, no,
Yeah,
because I
something
think
real.
you laid your
Real.
position down, I laid my position down. We had a logical agreement, which allowed us to discuss the topic on hand. Whereas tonight's debate was one person laid down a logical argument, the theist refused to, I guess you could say, acknowledge that, and it turned into a mess until the
I'm
very
gonna have to
end
watch
of the
this one. I
debate.
haven't, but people keep talking about today's debate on Modern Day Debate. So who was debating?
It was Matt
Matt
Delamonte
Matt Delamonte,
and Sam. I don't know Sam, but apparently he's a
Samuel,
Calvinist.
yeah.
But let's put it this way: he didn't do a good job of expressing his viewpoint from the very beginning because I actually accused him of being an Arminianist in the chat until the end of the video.
Well, that
But he
comes
No,
up.
it's an
Finally
insult for a
acknowledged-
Calvinist.
So before
Absolute. No, you have to understand. If you're called an Arminianist as a Calvinist, that
That's
is
an
like
insult. Yeah.
the ultimate insult. Not just that's like being called a Nazi.
But
And when
not many people
yeah.
would acknowledge that. Like, not many people actually even know that.
before I debated with Will, I had like a day or so to do some research. So I quickly looked into Calvinism. I saw the TULIP acronym and stuff like that, and that was interesting. And then I got the I saw some mentions of Armenian and some different variations of it came up, but I didn't delve into that. So it's interesting you're mentioning the Armenian stuff now.
Yeah, so like Matt got really offended because somebody called him a Nazi in the chat. But honestly, if Sam was watching the chat, me calling him an Arminius would have been equally as offensive as someone calling Matt a Nazi.
Do we have someone back there, Amy?
Yeah, it would have been.
Is someone back there?
Oh no, I just wanted to. So Heat Shield says, "Will you leave chat available for a while? I want to come back to hit Randolph's links here in chat."
Absolutely.
In fact, after the stream
Thank you,
is
Heat Shield.
done,
Heat Shield,
both-
come on the stream. You
Come
had
on
some really
over
good
here.
points in the chat
on
over
down.
at the debate. Come on the stream.
Guys, I wasn't finished with what I was saying earlier. I was just kind of waiting for a moment, because
Sorry
my
about
power
that.
flux.
Oh, okay,
I'll
and so
hear
I
this
just
and then I'll head
want to say it'll be available afterwards. You can see it in the chat, and you'll see it on the screen when I showed it on the screen during that timestamp. And okay, KO, what were you about to say?
Continue.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then
So, I
Randolph
was
can-
going through. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Kay.
That you and then Randolph. We're
Okay.
So before you guys,
I was just going through historical archaeological evidence, and I went through the fact that we can't prove that Hebraic peoples left Egypt at any point in time. We can't prove that Jesus ever existed at any point in time, and so it's really hard to say that Jesus fulfilled any type of prophecy if Jesus never actually existed, which is really difficult to prove. I mean, we have like maybe, which is actually considered in the Christian community and the Judaic community, we have some maybe evidence that David might have existed at some point, but we don't have some actual hardcore evidence to say that he ever even existed. And so you start coming to all these letterheads of, was this person Jesus, or was this person Jesus, or was Jesus mischaracterized? Was Jesus misnamed? Was Jesus this? Was Jesus this person? And you have all kinds of people and you have all kinds of faiths that have someone just like Jesus inside of their faith, which predate Jesus, which predate Christianity, which predate Judaism as a whole. And you just end up with all these contradicting faiths and methods and history and all sorts of things. So it's to say that Jesus fulfilled prophecy in the year 0. Go ahead, Will. Go ahead.
I don't necessarily think it's contradictory. I think it's unsubstantiated.
Is that so basically unproven, or
Yeah.
there's
Right,
not enough
because you
evidence to show that he did?
Right. There's not enough evidence to substantiate the claim.
So it kind of comes down
Contradictory
to
means opposite of, right?
yeah. So it kind of comes down to something like this. It's kind of like it's really difficult to prove anything biblical unless you are with like a lot of this weird category of this 6,000 year young earth creation thing. And without that, what you end up with is you end up with Noah on an ark, and Noah and his family getting off of an ark, and Noah has taken note of the only God there ever was or that ever existed. And that Noah getting off of a boat and his family going out and wide after seeing a 40-day, 40-night, 30-day, 30-night flood. And this Noah telling his family this story. They get off this boat. And at that point, they should all believe in God. They should all believe in this one and only ever wholesome God. They get off this boat. They go out. They find other people that weren't their family who shouldn't exist because God just wiped out the entirety of the earth. And they begin to spread philosophy that was not of God. It doesn't make sense. There's no other way of making sense of any of it unless you're part of a young earth creationist society, which, you know, just doesn't fit in any sort of thing. And even then, even if you were, you still have to contend upon the premises of why are there so many faiths on this earth that are way before Judaism or any Hebraic faith whatsoever? And why does how come there were no Hebraic faiths before the Romans conquered the Persians and took over Taoism? Like that doesn't seem logical. You know, there's no logic behind any of it. And
But is it plausible? Is it probable? I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I'm not even doing that with that fucking dude. That fucking dude's weird. But yeah, so that's the whole point, right? Like it all comes into like a weird, different perspective when you look at it inside of it, you know, archaeologically, historically, and it just having so many different. Even if you just look at the fact there's so many faiths that predate. Go ahead, Will. Go ahead. I see your hand, bro. That's when I stop.
But yeah, so,
I'm just going to say goodbye because I do have to get going. But thank you very much, everyone.
all right, Randolph. Thanks for
Bye,
coming on. I appreciate it.
Randolph.
Great to see
Nice
you all again.
having
You
you
too.
here.
Bye. Thanks for coming on, man. Always good.
Have a good night, Randolph.
Always great to have you on.
So first, I'd like to address Jay Mixon. I don't know if I was Randolph's only debate. I don't think it was. I think Randolph's been on Modern Day Debate several times.
Oh yeah,
He's
a regular.
It was
he's
my
regular.
first debate on Modern Day Debate. So
Oh, nice.
you could say Randolph popped my cherry, but
Oh my.
Calm down, Amy. Calm down, Amy.
but no, for what Coach Champ
I
is
start
saying,
panning. You'll know why.
KO Champ is saying is I don't necessarily think that you can equate Hebraic religions with Roman times. I think there is significant archaeological evidence that Hebraic faiths existed far beyond that, right? So, like, we're talking like Cananism, like Mediterranean.
Yeah,
talking
you're right.
Way back then, right? So there's significant.
The Greek times is what I would call it.
Yeah. But you have to understand that necessarily, if you're going to take the position that because you can't prove that Jesus is the Messiah, therefore Scripture, Jesus isn't prophecy, that's if you were to take that logical position, there is nobody who could deny that. Right? Because there's no one who can literally in the year 2021 prove that Jesus Christ walked the earth and lived the life that he lived. Right? There's no one who can prove that. So you'd have to be
Oz, you just made somewhere Oz is like eating potato chips, and he's like, "Well,
to be honest, I was on
happy, really, son."
I was in the chat and I was live streaming early. He was on live and it ended right around the time that your stream started, right? So I don't know why Oz isn't here in the first place, but
maybe he's tired. He had to go to bed. Probably he needs sleep too. Once in a while.
He's in Atlanta. He doesn't
It's
need
okay.
sleep. But
I mean, most people can't go 10 or 20 days without sleep.
Yeah, I'm a veteran,
but not me.
Man, I rarely sleep, and if I do, it's like 3 hours. So,
but you've got Odin to help you out with that shit.
Hey, man, no, that's not even Odin, bro. That's Freya.
Ivan the Boneless.
Fire. Okay. All right. Hey.
Freya.
Is that Nordic?
That's Nordic. Yeah.
Yeah. Freya is the goddess of fertility, right?
She's actually the goddess of war.
Oh,
and
same thing, right?
Nobody actually takes her as that because everybody equates war with Odin.
Yeah, I thought war was Odin.
Fertility war.
Yeah, Odin is more actually known for wisdom because he's the god that shed an eye to gain more wisdom, to gain more knowledge. Whereas, like, if you were to actually look into Norse mythology, you would actually see, you'll see the common Norse pagan is like, I can't wait to go to Valhalla, and it's all bullshit because there's like a level beyond Valhalla, which is called Folkheim, and that's actually where Freya, the goddess of war, who actually controls the Valkyries, actually admits men into her ranks as well. And that's actually the next level beyond Valhalla.
What do you gotta do in Valhalla? What do you do there?
The people in Valhalla actually just drink mead and eat and harvest amongst one another and enjoy themselves until the day of Ragnarok. And during that time, they actually battle one another daily. And they kill one another daily. And then at the end of that day, they're all resurrected and they say, hey, let's kill each other again. And they all feast as warriors.
You do the same thing, yeah. Badass. All right, Amy, I'm ready to go. You ready?
All right, you ready to sign up? Will you join it?
Yeah.
And hi, Robert.
But you hear from like the common, like there's a lot of quote unquote, these new pagans that are coming out. They're saying, I can't wait to go to Valhalla. And I'm like, okay, bro, cool. Cool story, bro.
They don't even know what's going to happen there.
They don't even know what the fuck is going on anymore. Yeah. Like they're all just like part of this new fad.
I just support Fat Thor. Fat Thor had it right. He was a good guy.
He was a cool dude. Yeah, that was cool.
So you had me at mead.
Mead, yeah. That's good. Yep.
Well,
I'll go.
Hey, Scripture's not against mead either, right? So Paul tells Timothy to drink, before he goes to bed in order to help his stomach, right? So,
but
Paul tells Timothy's not going to slice his dick off.
My whole point lies on the fact that, like, if you were to attempt to prove, any prophecy of Jesus, you have to first prove, before Jesus, right? You have to prove that Jesus ever existed in the first place. And if you can't do that, then you can't prove that Jesus fulfilled anything of the Bible unless the only source of your evidence is from the Bible.
Right. But see, I'm going to disagree with you. I'm going to disagree with you here because there's no point in having the debate at all, right? If you're not willing to entertain the logical experiment, and this was the key point in mine and Randolph's debate, right? This is the key difference between our debate and other debates between theists and atheists, is that I was willing to entertain the idea that the logical experiment that there was no God, and he was willing to entertain the fact that there was, right? The thought experiment. If you're not willing to look at each other's perspectives from the same lens, then there's no point in having the debate in the first place. Because if Matt's just going to come on and say there is no Jesus, therefore he didn't fulfill prophecy, then the debate ends at minute 1.
Yeah, that's a short debate. Right? Yeah,
I agree with that.
Yeah, to have the debate, I mean, you do gotta kind of grant that Jesus existed, but I think even if you did that, there's still no way that a theist can prove that Jesus fulfilled any prophecies, unless, of course, you define prophecy as something being really non-specific and interpretable.
And there's absolutely no way that a theist can prove that Jesus fulfilled prophecy. But there's absolutely equally as much, and this was my question in the debate towards Matt, and he kind of acknowledged it, was that there's no way that he can prove that he didn't. Right? Because the evidence of proof, if nothing is certain, you can't prove anything. Right? So and that's what puts us on a level playing field. And I think if Sam would have asked that question to Matt, debate would have taken an immediate different tone from the beginning.
Well, I think it's all about a level of confidence that we get from the amount of evidence that we're given.
I would say this. I mean, like, so we can prove.
And KO, make that point, and then we got a new person backstage. But go right ahead.
On.
Okay. We can
No.
prove that there were, Roman Empire emperors that existed during that time. We can show evidence of, big portions of history, big things that happened during that time. I mean, unless you were to state that maybe all evidence of Jesus burned down with the Library of Alexandria, then you come into the point of contention where you say, all of these things happen with Jesus. Go ahead, man.
You're equating the importance of an emperor to a man who had a 3-year ministry and a following of less than 500 people.
That is, like, we have people who lived for 3 years and wrote articles and quotes that we still quote today. However,
in modern times,
we don't have,
not 2,000 years ago.
We don't have quotes, from Jesus, right? We can't show there was a mass of people who dedicated themselves to a man, to a God, at any portion during that time. Go ahead.
You have over 1 billion people on the planet for evidence of Jesus Christ, right?
No.
You have,
right.
You're
No.
looking at it from a modern lens versus looking at the cultural lens, right? So culturally, at that time period, the Emperor of Rome is a far more significant character than Jesus Christ. True?
Yeah, and I'm not comparing Emperor
2,000 years later, who's the more significant figure, Jesus Christ or the Emperor of Rome?
The question that I'm embarking upon is that there are so many historical, archaeological, there's so much written history of that time.
Why is that?
There are smaller things written about more peasant peoples. And why would there be nothing written about Jesus prior to the 70 AD? I'm a little bit intoxicated, so don't quote me. 70 something AD, 60 something AD, like past 69 AD for sure.
And so I'm gonna read a comment just because, and I'm before I bring Jamie in, because I may have a hunch that the two Christians may not agree. So I'm gonna read the comment. This isn't from a Christian, but Randolph says, "Sorry, Will, but you seem to be ignoring the null hypothesis by saying that it's equal to prove something didn't happen. I can't agree with you on this point, but we can discuss this next time." So I'll give Will a chance to respond if he wants, and then we'll bring Jamie in to say hi.
Take it over,
I'm
Will.
not saying that it's equivalent to say something didn't exist as saying something did, right? Obviously, if you're making the claim that something did happen, obviously the burden of proof is on you, right? That's an obvious from an debate standpoint, from an argument standpoint. If you're making the positive claim, then the burden of proof is on you. But if you're making on the negative claim, right? So like tonight, did Jesus fulfill prophecy? The burden of evidence,
bro. You sound like me.
Yeah, the burden of evidence is on the theist, right? But the reverse effect of that is in mine and Randolph's debate is God immoral? Right. So the burden of evidence then falls on to Randolph versus me. Right. So that was the difference. Right. So the phrasing of the question depends on whose evidence, who is making the empirical claim versus who is defending the negative position. That's the difference. I 100% agree. If you're making a positive claim, the burden of evidence falls upon you. So I would agree with Randolph 100%, right? In this particular instance. But what I am saying is that in the position that Matt took, he acknowledged, right? And you can go back and watch the video. When I asked the question, do you agree, right, that it is illogical to assume that your position is any more valid than the negative position or the positive position. He agreed with the general principle, but then tried to wind back. He's saying, I'm not assuming that Jesus didn't fulfill prophecy. I'm basing it on available evidence. Well, the definition of assume is a supposition of a fact without proof. Right? That's an assumption. So technically, because the question was in the positive, he was defending the negative position of the positive. Yes, he wasn't necessarily taking that position, but he was assuming that Jesus didn't fulfill prophecy. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been in the no, right? If you're defending the no, you're assuming he didn't. Whereas if you're in the positive, you're assuming that he did. If you want to be intellectually honest with the argument.
And okay, I'm
Randolph
sure
is
people
correct.
will want to respond. And Heat Shield, welcome back. But with that in mind, Jamie, welcome to the conversation. We are Midnight Ranting on Did Jesus Fulfill Prophecy? What are your thoughts about the debate, the subject, or how are you?
Hi, thank you. That was a great introduction. I think that was very impressive there. Hello to everybody. I think the last thing you were on to there was really getting to the point. I think, Matt. The problem with Matt is he asserts under the guise of skepticism, which is a good thing. He wants to redefine atheism as a lack of belief, and that's his biggest problem. And then what you were saying there at the end is pretty much what I was going to say. Everybody has a burden of proof, no matter what. Even if you're a laxiest, technically you have some burden of proof. But yeah, with the positive assertion being the debate title, if I'm honest, and I'm just willing to be honest and not be just for my side or whatever, I would say I was a little disappointed he didn't give more positive evidence, better prophetic evidence. So,
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you only give like 2 examples scripturally, right?
Yeah, and there's like I almost never give Isaiah 53 just because everybody knows it. I mean, I will, but
He had Genesis 3:15. That was one of them that I wrote down, but I
Isaiah
forget the other
7:14 was the other.
I'm really wishing Christian apologists on YouTube even would to do some talk about Daniel more. It's like everybody avoids it. It's the biggest prophecy in the Bible. It's not only
the best book.
Yeah, it is the best. He's the best prophet in there. It's the most interesting, one of the more interesting prophets to read anyway, and it's the most important because it's not only making clear assertions. I mean, because Isaiah 53 suggests that the Messiah dies, which is a big point of contention with Jews and just whatever, and that's a thing people like to point to. The Jews don't even believe. Well, Daniel suggests that he dies, not as explicitly, but it says he'll be cut off, and he'll bring in everlasting righteousness. And I don't know what position. Will is it? I don't know what position you take. Okay, I take that the 70th week of Daniel is after the 69th week of years. But anyways, it's a prophecy, and all Christians agree that it's pretty clear historically too that Artaxerxes made the proclamation to let the Jews go back and rebuild the city, and that fits to the day, certainly to the year, but of when Christ came, and it seems inevitable. Wrong word, not inevitable, but it's clear. I mean,
don't want to go too Thanos on us, right? I am inevitable.
No, inevitable.
Anyone saw that movie? I think someone saw that movie. They told me.
I think he's talking about Isaiah 53:5 through 12 right there, right? The sacrifice for sin.
Hear you.
Oh, there's one other thing I wanted to say. That somebody was saying. What was he saying? The gentleman on the right, I think it was, bottom right. He was saying. He was saying about. Okay, sorry, Sam. You said that we have historical documents on lesser and more peasant-like people or whatever. Well,
Yep.
what do you think the documents about in the Bible are? The Gospels and Paul's letters.
They're younger.
How much younger?
Well, I mean,
Probably hundreds of thousands of years in many instances.
Not hundreds of thousands of years.
Yeah,
You've
hundreds
drank
of
too
thousands of
much
years,
tonight,
maybe.
bro.
If
Okay,
we
so
agree,
they're not contemporary enough, is your argument?
if we agree that the Ice Age was about 10,000 years ago, we actually have archaeological, historical evidences that
They won't agree with that, Kale. They won't agree with that.
I'm a
That
younger.
there
I'll agree.
Yeah, they won't agree with
there
10,000
are
years ago.
evidences
That's
of
yeah.
people.
I will say I think Will is. I'm not 100% sure, but I think he's old Earth.
No, he's young Earth. Will's young Earth.
He's
Yes,
young-
yeah.
Will's
You
young
won't,
Earth?
I'm
you
not
won't go
old
with
Earth
10,000.
or
yeah.
young Earth. I am theologically neutral in that position because there is too much vague reference to the actual age of the Earth. So I am more of a in-betweener on the old Earth, young Earth
Kind of a bracket.
theology.
That's okay. We're NASA shills here. We'll
But if
win
you had
over.
So, yeah.
if you had to put a guess, where would you mostly line up with?
Well, the great
can't
thing
ask
is
that
I
man
don't
that.
have to, right? So I am on the
You don't know?
Grudem
Don't ask that
theological.
man. Come on, James. Jeez.
So-
I mean, I
No,
just
it-
want to know where he stands. I mean, he has an opinion. I just want to hear it
like
out.
me.
So, Will, you only partially deny the science then?
So my position is that once all is revealed, nothing will conflict between science and scripture. That's my position.
That's
And
your
because
claim.
all hasn't been revealed, then no one can make an empirical claim that it is either old Earth or young Earth, because neither side of the argument knows 100%. That's my position.
We do know, though. It's an old Earth.
Well,
You have
These particles.
a theory.
and wait,
you don't
hold on.
have
I,
empirical evidence.
now hold on. I have to unpack that a little bit because
Sure.
it's just a theory. I hate that. I loathe that statement because a theory is a framework of facts. A theory is actually above facts. So facts, we gather facts and then we put them together and make a working theory.
Yeah, a theory is like a model. of
what are
facts.
I don't
Model.
quite agree with that though, Amy. Like even
This
Ed, I don't
is
even
only
agree with that one. Come on.
They
You
do
don't
say
agree with that? That's okay. That's the scientific method.
Well, I mean,
I can throw together
we'll be here
I
waiting
could
for
throw
evidence of
together
Thor
some-
or
some
Odin. so,
random-
don't present that. Go ahead.
I can
What's
throw
that?
together random facts and say that's a theory. You know, a theory is before the hypothesis, right?
But so are they a group of? You said random facts, but it should be a group of facts that create a model, that create a working, testable model.
Yeah, but you can do that with batteries. You can say, hey, you know,
could do
this
that with
battery-
batteries.
This
We know
battery
batteries work,
says
though.
it'll last this long. This battery says it'll last this long. This battery says it'll last this long. This is all factual evidence if you're using flashlights. But outside of flashlights, what's the actual, I don't know, alkaline inside the battery or something? But you're using facts to say there is a theory, and but the theory doesn't hold up. Go ahead, Will.
Well, at least we can
So
test
first of all,
that theory, though.
Yeah.
But go
You
ahead.
can't use facts to generalize a theory, because if you're using facts, then it would be fact, not a theory, right?
If
So
you
what a
use-
theory is an educated guess, right?
No,
So
no, no,
hypothesis-
no. Hold on, I'm sorry. I have to cut. That's a common misconception. That's a hypothesis, is an educated guess.
Right, I agree.
And so,
Yeah.
and
Atomic theory, germ theory, disease, gravity theory, special relativity. They're considered theories.
see, I normally shut up, but
Yeah.
this is stuff I know I can, because this isn't my opinion. This isn't like just Amy's view on theories. This is the scientific method's view on theories.
Yeah, so I mean, like, I agree that like evolution is a theory, correct?
Just as germs are a theory, yes.
Sure, but there's no factual evidence for abigenesis, right?
For well, you just switched topics. Are we talking about evolution or abiogenesis?
Well, I mean, that would be the naturalistic origin of life, correct?
I mean, I could
So
just
wait.
as easily say we're here, so we had to come from somewhere, and there's no evidence of a god, so therefore abiogenesis must have happened, even if
Yeah,
we
that's
don't
what
know
you
how.
guys do.
But
I
that's
joke about-
presumptionism, though.
But we're trying to switch topics. Evolution happens whether we want it to or not. It'd be
I agree.
like
Evolution happens. I don't deny evolution.
Yeah, neither do I.
I don't.
Well, I mean, we're good there.
I don't deny evolution within a species.
Okay.
Evolution.
I am skeptical of
species.
cross-species evolution.
Microevolution, like Ken
Micro-
Hovind. Remember the Ken Hovind on the video?
Well, I
Microevolution.
try to be more specific
Not
than.
a denier, but skeptical.
Can we get back to
Isn't
Jesus?
that good? Isn't skeptical good, guys?
Well, skepticism, I get that sometimes with global warming. See, once the evidence is for a proposition, then it becomes you should be skeptical to the people that are trying to deny the science.
Like the
And
flat earthers
sure.
say they're skeptics.
Yes, the flat earthers say they're skeptics. Yes, Will.
So I'm not against the theory of global warming because it's obvious that man's activities on Earth
And
impact
hi,
the
Simos Funk.
Earth's
Hey,
global
Simos.
climate.
Will is one of you. Come in.
Right.
Oh, what were you saying? Sorry.
You'd have to be absolutely insane to say that in the modern area, with the number of people that are on the Earth, that the human activity doesn't impact climate. That is absolutely the most insane.
People make the
Position
claim,
to
but
hold.
I agree with you.
Will,
You
can't be
make the
drinking
claim.
as much as
But-
KFC,
But is the human impact greater than the natural impact? And 2-1, politically, how do you deal with that? That's where I have a problem with it, right? So as a libertarian, right, we uphold personal property rights, environmental, sanctity of my personal own land. Do I think
the body?
Yeah. Do I think that the government should impose ridiculous taxes on me, even if I'm not polluting the land? What if I have no carbon footprint? Should I be taxed because of the amount of land that I own? The amount of
I think here's the problem though. Once it gets into politics, it gets murky. I just want to debate whether it is real because
The
it's
science.
like
you can't
science.
deny it's not
Politics,
real.
yeah.
You can't deny it's not real.
you say
I wanna
that,
get
but
back
people
to
do it all the time. And yes, we can.
Not honest
I
people.
forget what got well.
Can we get back to Jesus?
We can get back to Jesus. I will say, and
Jeebus.
I will. It's on
The two are
topic,
connected.
off topic. Yes. Well, I've always just been trying to understand the Jesus thing, and I guess that is the main prophecy. It's just that he came back to fulfill
Where did my friend
prophecy
go?
that I do not see. Oh, did Jamie leave?
Yeah, he probably his connection died out.
That does happen.
Yeah,
I normally
Jamie.
say James gets summoned by Satan. I can't. We'll say
It
he got
happens to me
taken
once
by
in a while.
Yahweh.
Once in a
I'll
while,
give
the
him-
devil calls on the phone. You gotta go, or he'll get really mad.
Let's get some more people on here. Come on,
Hey,
Robert.
Yeah.
Will,
The
I
link.
would really hopefully, me or you, neither one are too intoxicated before them, because apparently you're showing signs right now, and I've
What's
been
Will
That's
drinking?
awesome.
That's like 9%.
But after all this stuff, man, hopefully me and you can talk some more. If we're not a dumpster,
Talking a pint at 9%. If I'm intoxicated after drinking 1 pint at 9%, then I have problems.
you should probably drink more,
Yeah, drink a few more. Yeah.
because
You know
I
what?
can tell. Because I can tell that you're stuttering a little bit, bro.
Do you know what le fin de monde means, Will?
I don't.
It means the end of the world.
As we know it.
The REM song.
Oh, Aunt Jer's coming for.
Oh
Come on,
shit!
Andrew. What is that?
All right.
Extra
So just us? Or we
pediatric,
waiting on Jamie?
pedantic,
I don't know what that
No,
word
she's
means.
right.
Pedantic.
pediatric, pedantic. Pediatrics.
And
I think
welcome
Smokey
back,
did stream
Jamie.
tonight.
Oh, and we have a new challenger. I'm just kidding. Not enters the ring, but Midnight Ranting. Did Jesus fulfill prophecy? Peter, how are you
Peter.
doing?
Hey,
All right.
I think some people's microphones are coming through Jamie's a little bit.
Yeah,
It might be me. Is it gone now?
I'll be
Peter,
true.
my best friend from
One of the streams. There's so many.
no,
But go
Netherlands.
check out. Hold on.
Exactly.
Denmark?
You remembered. You remembered well. Just Amy kicked me out if I'm going to
Okay,
derail.
hold on, stop. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Peter. I apologize 1,100%. But Simos Funk came on,
Uh-oh.
and he has to come on the live stream. I'm calling him out right now. Simos, tomorrow's the London Derby. You have to come on and talk to me.
Oh.
He's coming out for you.
I'm going to take a
Coming
5-minute
out.
break because I have to go to the restroom.
Amy, I got to say, I agree with what
good.
you said about the about a theory. It's a hypothesis is an idea, and then you gather facts, or you could take the Popper method or whatever and try to falsify your idea. But the theory develops from from facts. But I don't think the facts make the theory necessarily like more sure than individual facts. I think you have.
And if I could just add on to that, because I see where you're going with this, of course. And there are such things. In fact, they're probably most of them. Most theories are wrong. In fact, what you want to find is a good testable theory that works.
I hate to interfere with this, but I don't agree with both of you. So here's the thing.
Speak your mind.
What science does is science makes observations, and from those observations, they gather facts. A theory is just the explanation of the observations and the facts and the things they've tested and whatever you can get within science, because every theory is different, and it's also a myth that everything in science needs to be replicable and testable. I mean,
Well, it should be replicable, shouldn't it?
No, because for instance,
100%, Peter, 100%.
We know how stars form, but we haven't yet managed to get a lab as big so we can make our own star. So we don't have to replicate it. Same thing goes. For instance, please let me finish, Amy. There was a famous advance made in science during the plague. And this was that through observation, they found out that a lot of the plague victims surrounded a particular well somewhere in the UK. They then found out that this particular well was the source of the plague. This is a clear demonstration of something that doesn't have to be replicable. We don't dig another well infested with the plague and then test whether or not people get sick. We can get working science based on observation only. And so my gripe with people saying, well, evolution is just a theory, keep in mind that a theory is the pinnacle in science. It starts out with a hypothesis, and then you start making observations whenever you can. You test and might even be able to replicate things.
Yeah, but the problem with evolution, though, is that you have a lot more theories that say that evolution is not plausible than you have theories that don't. You're talking about less than 5%.
On the contrary, evolution, and this is what has been stated within I forgot the name, the American body of science. It is the most substantiated theory on the planet. It is not only confirmed within biology. It's not only confirmed within biology. It's confirmed within geology, paleontology, history, pretty much.
Yeah, that's the same argument I'm making. Yeah.
Yes. So
evolution is proven.
Yeah. So yes, and it's proven to the point where it's now considered to be a fact as well as a theory.
Right.
It is that good substantiated. And so what Amy said earlier about theories possibly being false, obviously, as more evidence comes in, minor details will change. When it comes to phylogeny, you might find that some species switch places within the order as more evidence comes in. The fact that everything evolved from a common ancestor is a fact, and there's nothing, no observation or no new discovery will ever change that, because we've got genetics to prove it. And so for the exact same reason we can prove whether or not a man is the father of a child, and this is legal in court. For the exact same reason we can prove that we evolved from a common ancestor. Okay.
Okay, can I respond to that?
As far as my midnight ranting goes, Amy, that was my rant.
That sounds good. Thank you so very much.
Thanks for letting me rant.
We appreciate it. It was good. Thank you, Peter.
That was amazing.
And okay,
We love
so Jamie,
God
it
bless
sounds
our
like you wanted to have a response. I just wanted to say one thing, and then we're going to get Simos Funkin.
Okay, so someone said, "God bless Aaron Ra." Aaron Ra will be on tomorrow. I'll be producing his show as usual.
Praise Aaron Ra.
So if you want to learn more about the Quran, tune in.
I'll be there. I think we're ready for Simos then.
And okay, so we are ready for Simos. In fact, haha.
Hey.
Welcome, Simos. We are midnight ranting on Did Jesus Fulfill Prophecy?
Okay.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, oh, God, don't. I won't even start there, because what I will start with is I think you'll find it wasn't the plague, Peter. I think you'll find it may have been cholera that was traced.
That could be. So what I remember is a plague. Let's say it like that, a plague, and that the discovery that was made in Britain regarding that particular well advanced science a lot, as well as medical research.
Sure. So again, I think it might have been cholera, and also he found or traced it to that well because of the use of statistics. So it was the first kind of statistics we used to diagnose a problem like that, and that was pretty interesting. Anyway, just to point that out, I can't actually stay very long, so let me make a couple of points and then I'll go. Good luck to Will for tomorrow, and may the best man win, or men, or boys, depending on which way you look at football. Man-child, I don't know what the right phrase is. And up the Arsenal. So that's all very good. And as for did Jesus fulfill prophecy? Well, I mean, in hindsight, he probably did. Let me put it that way.
Smart answer.
Okay.
And I know where you're going.
I'm not even going to go there. I'm just going to leave it hanging.
No, I know what you're going to do with that.
Yeah, I'm not going to do anything with it. You can take it for what you like. If it's not obvious, then never mind. Keep your faith, because that's it. Oh, and I will just say one other thing, which is about models and theories, right? I don't think these things should be taken quite literally, of course. Remember, because we have string theory, which currently is a model which is unfalsifiable, so it's a model. And of course, we have the standard model, which is of course data-driven and is a theory. So labels can be a little bit misleading, but I still take the point anyway. In physics, people can be a little bit hyperbolous with the words that are being used. So we don't always mean the exact. We don't always mean or hold to a high rigorous standard the words model and theory. But nonetheless, I think when we're using them, we generally know what we're trying to imply. And maybe the highest standard is above a theory, which is the law, I would say.
No. I have to correct you there, Simon.
Oh, go ahead, please.
A theory includes facts, laws, and observations. So a law is not higher than a theory.
Okay. Again, I was just, fair enough. I wanted to make the point that, especially in physics, the words can be a little misleading. We don't always mean the same thing when we use the word theory.
In a truth hierarchy, though, I'd say the law is higher in a truth hierarchy, if you will.
No.
You could look at it that way. I get what you're saying.
No,
I get that
not.
the laws are part of a theory. I get that. I'm just saying a law is something that's kind of just flat out accepted just in itself.
A law in itself is nothing more than a fact that we've observed. So
Fair enough.
laws aren't man-made. Laws aren't made by deity. Laws are just observed facts that seem to be repeatable.
Well, I'd say that's an assertion. It could be or could not be. I don't think science should even include.
Nobody sees you like me, bro. I'm looking at you, but nobody else does.
No. I can assure you that laws are not man-made. They're observations, and they're just a description of how we see reality. By the way, Spooky shot a link to the outbreak that I mentioned. It was in 1854, the Broad Street cholera outbreak. So, Simon, you corrected me well. It was cholera, and it has a picture. It has a picture.
There you go.
It has a picture of the well that I mentioned, which is also nice.
I think Will's ready.
Will, you've been patiently waiting. What's on your mind?
So I have a question for Peter. I agree with you that laws are observable facts, correct?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But theories are assumptions based on those facts, correct?
No. A theory is the explanation of everything we know about a certain field of science. So when it comes to evolution, the theory of evolution explains everything we've ever discovered in nature, things that science has discovered, tested, and that has stood the peer review, because the peer review is there to shoot down false ideas, and so only the good ideas evolve, if you will. And I'm going to get in trouble if I'm going to use the word in this way. But
Peter, you were with Donald back and forth.
Yeah, no. I think theory, your peer review is probably not as good as you think. But who am I to say? I don't know. There's indications that a lot of it isn't even right, and that the process of peer review is not doing a very good job of.
I'm not. Can you be a little bit more specific?
Yeah, there's studies of trying to reproduce peer-reviewed published stuff, and they can't reproduce it, or they redo it and they cannot get the results again. There's that. Then there's. I'm not saying peer review is bad. Don't get me wrong. I'm just pointing out that people often think it's better than it is.
But this is what peer review does. If you've got a certain scientist that has a particular finding, and puts all his work up for scrutiny, and other scientists are not able to reproduce his findings, then his findings won't graduate to a theory. So you just summed up how peer review works.
Well, no, I understand that's the idea. I'm just saying the way it's set up, oftentimes it doesn't get that kind of attention. Like if someone publishes a finding that they make, and they record it and everything, and they send it in, but a lot of times the peer review is not other scientists redoing the finding. They review the paper, they read it, and then they send it to another person to read or whatever. And oftentimes they'll pass it through based on where it's from or who, because there's different, the different companies that do that, and how the financial structure is, and the politics of that.
In
I'm just saying. I'm not saying.
In companies, you might be right.
Peter
in
respond,
science,
then
I doubt it.
Champ want to chime in. Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, please don't misunderstand me either. I respect peer review, and I think it's a good thing. And it failed. And there's some studies that have come out. I can send you a link to what I'm talking about if you want, but it's interesting. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, sure. Shoot me the link.
Yeah, I'll
Go,
grab
Sam.
it here.
You ready to go?
Will.
No,
For
it's
me?
KO Champ. He wanted to chime in.
Champ. He's muted himself.
He's muted.
No. I was stating that Will still has his hand up, and that I said Will's a funny dude. He's got his hand up, so I need to get Will.
What's on your mind?
I thought his computer froze. I didn't realize he was there the whole time.
No, my computer didn't freeze.
Okay.
So my question is that so theory is to say that it's not a presumption of fact. It's not an extrapolation of the facts, right? That's what theory is. It's an extrapolation of fact. For instance, in history, if we were to go back to different theories that were, you could say, peer-reviewed, accepted. For example, Darwin's theory of evolution was peer-reviewed and accepted as a theory, has now been proven in modern times to be not so correct. Correct?
Okay, so let's get things straight. So Darwin never made it to a theory. That's one thing where you're wrong. What you're right about is that from the moment of Darwin's discovery and the publication of his books, it from there on became a theory. The theory is under revision until today, because back in Darwin's day we didn't have genetics, so we had no way to check within genetics. We didn't have a lot of the fossils we have today. We didn't have all of the research that went into the fossils that we have today. So the theory of evolution is under revision all the time. The mere fact, and this is what I just said before, the mere fact that we evolved from a common ancestor is irrefutable. It is. We have enough evidence that is something that we won't be able to turn over, no matter what evidence comes in.
Well, I like that because that's where the theists come in and they talk about where the transitional species, and the answer is that every species is transitional. It's the same thing that's been going on now. It's been going on for millions of years.
Yes.
But what I'm curious about is how do we know that it's a transitional species versus a different species?
There are no different species. There are only transitional species.
Is it not modern common assumption that Neanderthals and human beings are different species?
They're different species, yes.
They could interbreed. I don't know how that would work. But.
And there are a lot of people today that still have Neanderthal DNA. So Neanderthals and humans interbred. We know this for a fact.
In fact,
but they're still different species.
They were
probably 3% or 4%.
They're not a transitional
the
species. They're different species.
They are a transitional species. Sadly enough, the Neanderthals died out, and the other species that was prevalent at the time. And I'm not a specialist when it comes to that.
So where did the Neanderthals
the other species evolved into modern humans, and modern humans are still evolving. There are several. But
is crossbreeding transitional?
So
No,
if I could
no.
just say
that is horizontal gene transfer. That's something completely different.
all species are transitional, and Neanderthals, I would say, were on the verge or the line. They really are almost what you could call a race or a subspecies. We were at the break. We could kind of mate with them, but I think it was starting to get difficult. And so that split, once you can no longer mate, that's when they become a completely another species. So if Neanderthal kept on living,
tigers, and lions, right? It's the same thing.
Exactly.
Well,
so
the
that
same
was
family,
the trajectory.
but they diversified from a common
Yeah,
ancestor.
My question is, what did Neanderthals transition from?
earlier apes.
I
They
don't
were
know,
also
Homo
rated.
habilis
from-
or Afarensis, one of
No,
them.
no. This isn't for James, because I know you guys' answer, but I want to hear the other guys' answers.
What I'm saying is, if you have a species, a different species, Neanderthal versus Homo sapien, right? And you find a skeleton that is, 10,000 years old, who's to say that it's not necessarily a transitional species, but a separate species that was similar enough in DNA in order to allow procreation the same way that lions and tigers are able to create ligers?
So do you think that
the fun fact,
and Neanderthals, or do you
the
think
fun
they
fact
were
is
subspecies?
the fun fact is we do have DNA from Neanderthals. We even have DNA from older humanoids. So through genetics,
But a
we
Neanderthal
can
is
trace.
a humanoid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
let's keep backtracing species
sorry to interrupt.
until we get back to monkeys.
Yeah, so we have the DNA. So for a good lineage, we can trace back the DNA, and we can see that we are related, and we can also see how we are related. So in case of the Neanderthals, think of it as them being our cousins, and if you ask whether or not they are transitional species, if you have offspring, your offspring will be slightly different. So you will be a transitional species between you and your own offspring.
Sorry to interrupt. I have to go, so things to get on with. But
thanks for coming on, Simos. As always, great to have you on. Thank you.
Yeah, hang on. Because I got called out, I came in quickly just to say a few things to Will. And obviously, so just say good luck to the Spurs tomorrow, who are obviously descended from Neanderthals. And that's about it. Thanks.
Burnley 4-0, Burnley 1-1. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Take care, Will. Nice to see you again. And
Thank
take
you.
care.
Have a good night.
Nice seeing you, Simos.
Come on more often, Simos. I enjoy your presence.
I like Simos too. He makes some really good points.
I like him. He's a good guy.
He makes a lot of good points.
So Will,
Yes.
as I said, keep in mind that Neanderthals and modern humans were cousins.
Yes.
The exact same way you can interbreed with your cousin, it doesn't mean that you descend from your cousin. You can interbreed with them,
which is illegal in most states, but I guess.
So let me ask you a question: is it transitional evolution that me and my Korean wife have biracial children?
In a way, yes, because what you're doing is you're mixing up two gene pools, which will get its own unique offspring.
Right, but is that a transitional species, or is that just
everyone is a
evolution
transitional
within a
species?
kind?
No, everything is a transitional species. So as I said, humans are still evolving. In Africa, for instance, there's a group of people that have evolved. Now I forgot the word. They're resistant to HIV. In Germany, in Italy, there's a group of people, a family of people who have evolved a resistance against heart attacks. In Germany, there's a group of people that have exceptional strong bones. So all these things are mutations. They will, because there are so many humans, they will go up into the human gene pool, but it will still be an improvement, if you want to call it like that, on current humans. So the fact that we now have a family that is resistant against heart attacks, less people from that particular family will die off. They will pass on those genes to their children. Less of those will die off. So this is something that is going to spread out through humanity. It's going to take a lot of time because unlike wild animals, let's say, we create our own environment. So we're not evolving as fast as animals because we adapted the environment to our needs, whereas animals need to adapt to a changing environment.
I agree to that with that 100%. But my point is that you cannot show through simply a fossil record, regardless of the DNA test that you do, that humans transition from an ape-like, non-conscious, non-rational being to what we are now.
Except you can, because the evidence of that is overwhelming, and it is not only the fossil record, because it's not only the fossils we find. We find within the separate species, we find more and more tools. So we can see when we started from being hunter-gatherers to become...
Chimpanzees today use tools.
And,
yes,
well, if I
chimpanzees,
may say so,
as a matter of fact, chimpanzees today are in the Stone Age. So yes, they're evolving. They're on the same track we are.
and I do want to say they're conscious. So
Yes.
our ancestors,
Conscious but not rational.
I would say their learning might not be introspective. They might not be metadataing, but they're probably sentient. They're probably conscious, and
Well, that's some
all
fast
that.
evolving. Sure.
All life is conscious, right? And it knows he's alive.
Yeah, I accept that consciousness is a.
All life is conscious. The difference is being self-conscious. So apes are the apes are partially self-conscious. So for instance,
for a second.
For instance, if you teach an ape something, the ape might be able to learn it. We know of Coco the gorilla who was taught sign language. What an ape will not do, and humans will do, is question. And that is, to this day, still a big difference between the ape brain and the human
Which is
brain.
ration.
Reason, see, I'll tell you what I think.
No, because
Logical
there
mind.
are parts of reasoning like empathy, for instance. Empathy, anger, jealousy, they're all part of reason, and apes do seem to have that. If you have a group of apes and you feed one grapes and the other, let's say a nut or something, the ape who doesn't get the grape will get jealous of the other ape who obviously does, and will get angry.
There's a difference between animality and personality, right? Anger, love, hate, well-being, those are things that are innate in survival instinct, correct?
No, they are a product of a social species. We see all of those things in different social species. So
but that's not reason.
And Will, I can tell you it's different.
Reason evolved from the same thing.
I just want to say I can tell you the difference, what you're looking for, and it's a tricky thing. It's introspection. The difference between us and the species that you're looking at, because I think some do, specifically with introspection, it's metadata. It's data about data. Humans go, holy shit, we're thinking. We're thinking about thinking. And so that is the difference right there.
It's I think it's the ability to rationalize. I don't think it's ration as necessarily having emotions. I think emotive responses are necessarily naturalistic, innate characteristics.
Yes.
Ration is the ability to reason with logic as to why am I doing this specific
like
thing.
Another layer.
And that started when humans evolved from being hunter-gatherers to being farmers and to settle.
What took them so long?
See,
lack of a god to teach them how to do it, probably. But I don't know what took them so long.
That's a prime example. Are animals able to form religion?
So, religion.
They don't have that.
I mean, other animals. But that formed when our brains got big enough and our neocortexes. It's very specifically. It's not a miracle because there are creatures that are conscious, but aren't sentient. They don't have like a whole bunch of emotions or memory, but they are completely doing their thing and they're successful. And like amoebas are multi-celled organisms. And so they may have a consciousness, but they probably can't pass like a Pavlov's test or the mirror test or things like that.
I think I don't have a problem with.
Amy's very big on the fact that bacteria, amoebas, whatever, they're just as evolved as we are. They're just well suited for their environment while we're suited for ours.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Some of them have.
So, hold on. So Aunt Jura is really on me right now for not knowing the difference between sentience and sapience. So is sentience not the awareness of self?
Self-aware.
That's philosophy.
I'll give you my own personal definition that I'm trying to gain water, but in my opinion, sentience is the combination of emotion and memories, and the way I could prove that is Pavlov's. So what a mouse is doing is it's saying, look, I can remember going through here, and when I get to this point, I get the cheese, and I can actually access that memory and get that positive emotion back. So that's sentience. And then what she's saying is sapience, I would say, is introspection. I would say that is when you start thinking about meditate. You start looking in the mirror and going, oh, man, that's me.
Right, but is that not different from what I said? Like, sentience is the awareness of self. Sapience is the ability to logically form reason based on that sentience. Correct.
Which is what Amy said. It is thinking
it's
about
same
it is
thing,
thinking,
but just different wording, right?
It's thinking about thinking. That is something that the apes haven't evolved yet, and I need to stress the yet, because we haven't even scratched the surface in doing research of the great apes when it comes to things like that. We know for a fact that the apes have love, apes have memories. When Robin Williams died, they told Coco, the gorilla, who Robin Williams visited at some point, and she was sad that he had died. So she did have the reasoning to know what dying is.
Do not dogs have that same reasoning? Do they not mourn the death of their pack leader?
Yes.
They don't
Famously, elephants do that. The elephants will even visit grave sites where. So, yes.
But sometimes I think there's some pushback about animals' ability to reason emotions or whatever, like you're saying, because some people, I thought I've heard that some people that are in the research suggest that it could be a learned behavior, like kind of like a copycat thing. I don't know much about it, but I've heard that.
Which
it's a copycat thing.
Well,
I've heard the elephants.
Which is disputed, by the way, by dogs. We have seen dogs jump into the water to rescue a human. That's not learned behavior.
Yeah.
I'll separate that out. I could separate that real easy. So, a parrot or a raven repeating what you say back to them, that is just them, no pun intended, parrot mimicking it. But then the actual parrot able to pass, I hate to call it an IQ test, but almost like that they have a certain level of decent G or general intelligence. That's a whole different thing. So they can pass the test. So it's two different things. You can separate that out.
100%.
Well, especially ravens and crows have problem-solving capability.
Yeah, they're like the most intelligent, aren't they?
And that is not learned behavior. They will solve their own problems to get to food. Another species that does that, and you can test that in your own backyard, squirrels. Squirrels will test, and you can put up an entire track for a squirrel to get to food, and the squirrel will figure out how to get there. So they also have problem-solving skills.
They seem to form kinships with people too. It's pretty cool.
And okay, whoever put their hand up first, and we're going to get to that, and then we're going back to Jesus.
Will then Cocham.
Will was first.
If we're going hippy dippy rules, it would be Will then Cocham. Yeah, so survival skills, which is problem-solving skills for animals, is different than IQ tests. For instance, is like what comes next in the sequence.
Problem-solving skills aren't survival
is
skills.
Black and white, opposite ends of the spectrum, right? So if you were to take a mathematical IQ test based on what is the next plausible
or logical
progression of something
Probable.
versus what is a instinctual habit in order to survive, is instinct in order to survive, is completely different. You can't compare the two at all. They're
No, and this is why problem-solving skills involves thinking. Because without thinking, you can't get there, and
that's
means
what separates us from animals.
And I'll give you an example of where I think intelligence really seems to come from. It really seems to come from predatory animals. So you see this with like a cat stalking its prey and things like that. If you are just chomping on grass, you really don't have to think that much.
I don't think they
Intelligence
define
is just
intelligence.
one
really
thing
clear.
evolution
One
uses
exactly.
to keep people alive. Just one. There's other things, yeah.
Intellectual capability and instinctual perseverance is totally different, in my opinion.
Is it
Yeah, it's not clearly defined in either.
It is, and that is why I mentioned problem-solving skills, because that's not an instinct. That is self-teaching. That is thinking.
Well,
You can't learn sign language, but they can't learn mathematics.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm not even sure, because I think we already crossed that boundary as well, but I'm not entirely sure.
They know birds
I think it has to do
at
with
least
language,
count.
the ability to use
I don't
language.
know about math, but birds can count.
Yes. And we also know that certain animals have a specific language, and I keep forgetting the little African creatures that stand up and look around. Meerkats. Meerkats have a language. We have already discovered part of the language. So meerkats have a warning system, and scientists have been able to figure out that they can send a human towards them, and the meerkat will say, there's a human approaching in a yellow shirt, or there's a human approaching in a red shirt.
Can you define language?
I do not deny that a monkey can differentiate between the fact that they have one banana or two bananas, but for them to perform algebra or trigonometry or calculus is
One
absolutely
step at a time. One baby
Yeah,
step.
Nope, that's fine. So, Peter, finish your statement, and then KO, I think you wanted to say something?
Yep.
Yeah, let KO go. I talked a lot already, so.
All right,
No,
go
we're
ahead,
doing
KO.
good.
All right. This question goes out to Will and Jamie. And I really hope we get simple answers, right? Because I don't want to make this complex, right? I want to get
I
to
always
something.
give simple answers.
I'm going to get to something here, okay? So you guys have both stated that humans are quote unquote cousins to Neanderthals, correct?
That's what we say, not them.
I don't have,
I think
problem with that hypothesis.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. Depends on what you mean by cousins. I mean, obviously not literally.
Do you think that we came from Neanderthals?
No.
I think Neanderthals are. Well, I was going to say something about that from the creationist side, but I think we came from the same. We have common ancestor. Yeah.
Okay, so who was the common ancestor?
Probably somebody more like us, in the sense of what you would call our species.
So do you think that we inbreded ourselves into? Hang on, Will. Hang on, I'm sorry, man. I will call you. You know I will. You know I will call you out, right?
I got you.
So do you think we inbreded ourselves into Neanderthals?
Yeah, I think Neanderthals were the only plausible model for a creationist based on the genetic data seems to me to be that Neanderthals were a group of humans with a small population that were interbreeding heavily, and that's pretty evident in either model that they were interbreeding, because all the Neanderthals we find, even the ones that are somewhat spread out from each other, but have like highly similar genomes.
You are aware that
We still have.
Neanderthals, the Neanderthals have been found from entire Europe into Asia. It wasn't a small group.
We
It
still
was a
have.
massive group.
We still have tribes.
What's that mean?
They were probably as interbred as we are today.
Okay,
We still have.
it's not a problem.
Go
Me-
ahead,
me-
Caleb.
We still have tribes in Africa that are
Yes.
undisturbed. We're not even allowed to drive airplanes over them. That are still interbreeding. We've not yet to create a Neanderthal as of this point. And as of this point, we have yet to find a human skeleton that predates a Neanderthal or Cro-Magnon or anything of the likeness to. And therefore, I mean, where are the human skeletons? Are we considering Cro-Magnons and Neanderthals as animals?
Well,
Are they
they
not
weren't
of our
humans.
kind? Are they
I
not,
don't.
or are they animals?
Ancestors, cousins,
As-
if you will.
As my my
All right,
fellow,
Will was up. I made my
Oh, sorry,
point.
my bad.
Will was up. I made my
No,
point. Though.
well, then we'll talk.
So my question is what is the DNA evidence that there's a significant difference between human DNA and Neanderthal DNA? Obviously, if they can interbreed, their DNA is within
We have the
0.1%.
full genome. We have the full genome of the Neanderthal species, and we also have the full genome of the humans, and we can see where some groups of humans, not all of them, but so for instance the American North and South America do not have Neanderthal DNA, whereas Europeans and Asians do have Neanderthal DNA, and we're only scratching the surface of and I keep butchering the name, Denisovans. I forgot what.
Denisovans.
Denisovans. We only have, I think, a digit of a finger from them, but they have different DNA. And so over time, we will find out if there are humans today that have that particular DNA. And I think there are 4 groups. There's a 4th one in there as well. So you've got the humans, Neanderthals, and 2 others.
Cro-Magnon or something.
Correct me if I'm
Go-
not
go ahead,
wrong,
Will.
and you may not know this 100% as of the fact, but is it not the same percentage difference in DNA between wolves and domesticated dogs?
No, because
What's the
wolves,
difference?
because dogs evolved from wolves. We did not evolve from Neanderthals.
I thought we did.
interbred. No, we interbred
So who did we evolve from if we did not evolve from Neanderthals?
from I don't know the exact lineage, and sadly the person who was I think one of the specialists when it comes to this passed away last year, Bill Ludlow.
There's
If
Homo
you want
erectus, Homo habilis.
Yeah, if you
there's
want-
all
if
sorts
you
of
want-
them.
if you want to have a better view of it, the debate is
I'm not
still
an expert.
online.
I'm just asking questions, right?
No,
So-
and you should. So the debate between Bill Ludlow and Kent Hovind is still online. It's one of the best that you can watch when it comes to evidence.
Hovind, are you serious? Kevin Hovind
No,
is the
no,
best?
I'm not. But I'm not talking
Yeah,
about Kent Hovind.
sorry
I'm
about
talking
that.
I'm talking about Bill Ludlow. When he came to that debate, he was so prepared. He had all the evidence for human evolution, from the skulls to the DNA evidence. Everything was mentioned in that debate. So I'm not mentioning it.
so-
I'm not mentioning it because Kent Hovind was in there, because I could care less who he debated.
I agree.
The fact that when it comes to, if you want to watch a video and get some
I've seen
I'll
it.
look it up.
some good starting points for human evolution, then yes, Heat Shield Bill passed on. I think it was even late 2019.
But my main point is that
That's
fossil
right.
evidence doesn't equate to genetic evidence, right?
Say again?
You can have a weird shaped skull that could be a deformed human, correct?
Yes, you can.
But the DNA is what makes it different, correct?
Yes, but we also have the knowledge to recognize deformities. So we
But
can.
we didn't 20 years ago.
But we do now.
Not as
We
well.
do now.
We
20
do now.
years ago, when they came up with the connections between the links of evolution,
And you think they haven't adjusted everything
I
over
don't.
the past?
I don't.
Then you're wrong. You're
What
wrong.
was that
because-
lady's name of the skull they found? What was that?
Lucy.
20 years ago.
Lucy.
You
Yeah.
think they've done DNA testing on Lucy's genetic code?
How many skeletons do we have from that particular species, which is
More now.
that's Afarensis, Australopithecus afarensis. That is Lucy. How many skeletons do you think we have now?
That particular skeleton that they
I'm not
posted
asking
all
about
over modern.
I'm not asking about that particular skeleton. I'm asking you how many
no idea.
do we?
They recently found a bunch.
Hundreds. We found men,
That's
women,
fine.
and children of all ages.
That's fine.
The-
That's not my point. My point is that when they plastered Lucy all over every scientific publication across the world, did they do DNA analysis of that particular skeleton to find out that it was a different species than human? No, they didn't, because the technology didn't exist at that time. True or false?
Some people even in the
I don't see how that is a problem, because now we do have the DNA. Now hold on. Now we do have the DNA.
Recent evidence.
Sorry, let me finish. Now we do have the DNA, and the DNA evidence confirms what we already knew based on skeletal evidence.
Right, but why aren't they posting that specific evidence all over modern scientific publication across
They
the
do.
entire social media
They
and
have.
the world of 2020?
They
I haven't
have.
seen it.
But the problem
Okay,
is
but that is an
one-
argument. That is an argument of personal incredulity. The fact that you haven't seen it doesn't mean it doesn't
But
exist.
Lucy was on the news in
Reminds me
every
of God.
National
Yes.
Geographic all over the world.
So
then.
was
Why
Trump.
isn't that
So
same
was
evidence?
So was
Exactly,
Trump.
Trump.
Why is Trump no longer in the news? Because he's no longer
Not
relevant.
president. Yeah.
Yes.
What I'm saying, if there's hundreds of those same species available for DNA evidence now, why aren't we hearing about them? And why
Because
aren't scientists making that information
I'll tell you-
available to them?
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why.
Peter.
Because wait a minute. Lucy's find was groundbreaking. So obviously that was plastered over the news. If we would get every single scientific finding in the news, you wouldn't have enough. Even if you had a 24/7 channel to post it on. There are fossils found every single day. There are parts in the US where you can go and you can just pick up fossils along the road. It's no longer a big mystery. There
Fossil
are so
record
many.
to me is in modern technology. The fossil record to me is absolute absurdity. Just to observe the fossil and where it was found and what layer of dirt it was in is absolutely absurd when we have DNA and all the technological advances that we have now as far as genetic coding.
But we can't go back far enough with DNA because DNA isn't preserved. So there are a lot of
DNA
other
and
things.
bone marrow
There are a
is
lot of other
absolutely
things.
preserved.
What?
Yeah, DNA and bone marrow is absolutely preserved. You can pull DNA out of
Pieces of
thousands of years old.
Thousands, but not millions. We're talking
It
about
begs the
millions.
question about the,
We're talking about millions of years, and whether or not
How can
people
you draw that conclusion then?
because of dating mechanisms, because of several
This
dating.
mechanisms are evident because you can burn a piece of wood and carbon date it for 1,000 years ago when it was burned yesterday.
No, you can't.
Yes, you can. That's what
No, you
carbon
can't.
dating is.
So
Yeah,
you wait a minute. So you didn't know that anything that is going to be up for carbon dating has to have been dead for over 100 years. Otherwise, you will get a faulty result. You didn't know
Exactly. I know that 100%, and that's what I'm saying. because you can burn a piece of wood that was burned yesterday and get a result
and
that was
apply
longer than 100 years ago.
And apply a
That's why
false
it's
method,
faulty.
and apply a method to it that you know won't work. And yes, then you'll get a false. I mean, how is
That's
this
my point,
even?
though.
Yes.
So if you
If
find a
you
skeleton,
If
in
let's say I want to build a house, and I start off with building a wood skeleton. The next thing I do is set it on fire, and then I'll have a method that predicts that probably the house won't get built, and that's because of my own stupidity setting the house on fire because before it was finished. If you apply a method that doesn't work, you get the wrong results. How is this even a
course.
problem?
it's not a
How's
problem.
this a problem?
That's my point, is that you cannot empirically state this the other
You
method.
can empirically state that if you apply dating methods correctly, and you have several
how-
dating,
what
and
assurance
you have,
do you
hold
have?
on, I'm not finished. And you have several dating methods that overlap, and they will give you the correct date consistently over years and years of testing. Then you can assume that you've got a reliable method. This is what we have today. We do not only have carbon dating, we have several methods of dating.
I agree.
And they all converge on a similar date. So you know that the dating method is working. If you falsely apply it, if you're going to carbon date fish, if you're going to carbon date living animals, you know you're going to get a false result because we already know how the dating mechanism works, and what's more
Peter.
important, when it doesn't work.
You have to agree that
If
it
you've
is
got a car-
scientifically accepted that carbon dating is at best hypothetical dating system in 2021, correct?
What?
It can do 100,000 years at max, probably more like 50,000.
No, carbon dating
is not a reliable system.
Carbon dating is a reliable system up to 50,000 years.
I
Night,
got
Jay.
a question here. I got a question for Will.
Sure.
Thanks for coming, Jay.
Will, I'm curious on what you think the scientists are thinking when they're presenting these results.
Absolutely.
I mean, you have to think. I don't know how many scientists are doing this. I'd have to guess thousands. I mean, and of course it's not the number, but do you think they're all wrong? Do you think they're all making stuff up? Do you think that they're just making guesses and they're not taking everything into consideration?
No, I think they have a bias. For instance,
What's their bias?
if your theological worldview or your non-theological worldview rules your thinking, what is your first conclusion when you test a particular subject?
No, they don't take any of that in consideration. They look
How do you
at
know
the
that?
facts.
How do you know that?
Why would they? What do they get out of it?
Why wouldn't they? If you're
Are
an
they all
atheist and
are
you
they
don't
all
believe in
trying to
God,
disprove- are they
and
all
you
trying to
test a
disprove
particular
God then?
subject, if you're an atheist and you don't believe in God and you test a specific subject based on your observations, would your initial conclusion not be based on your worldview? It's impossible.
So you're
all
saying
human
all
beings-
these scientists are biased, really?
Absolutely, 100%.
Wow. Okay.
Theists.
I guess you
theist
could
scientific
claim that
bias,
all day if you want,
atheist
but
person-
it's disingenuous.
It's not disingenuous because theists. Would you not say that theist scientists are biased?
Yeah, I think they're
Okay, so
trying
then how
to
then
match-
atheist scientists are not biased?
I
That's
think
absolutely
theists
absurd
are
conclusion.
trying to match facts with their book, and it doesn't work. You're struggling. to
Atheists
do
are
it.
trying to match
Will.
facts with their belief.
What is okay? Now
You're trying to jam facts
Will
into
Will
this
now
narrative, and it doesn't.
now you've insulted me, and
I'm
I'll
not
give you.
That's
Yes, you
absolute-
have because I lack a belief system which is literally what atheism means. So tell
I
me
agree.
what belief system I have.
I'm not saying you have a belief system. I'm saying if you don't have a belief system, your biases is to not have a belief system. If you
What
have
is the
a belief
bias?
system,
What is the bias?
that you don't have a belief system.
Okay, so what is the goal? What is the goal for science to, as you now imply, what is the
Right.
goal for science? To
scientific method is-
hold on, to falsify results in order to
Not
get
falsify.
to where?
What is a scientific method? You have to answer that question first. What is
The
a scientific
the
method?
scientific method is coming up with conclusions based on evidence.
Right? And how is the evidence interpreted?
How's the evidence interpreted?
Yeah.
What do you mean by how is it interpreted?
What is
It's
the
that's
conclusion? What is the
different. That is
hypothesis.
that is different in every single field of science. How it's interpreted.
Exactly.
It's
That's exactly
the
my
interpretation.
point.
The interpretation within science relies on earlier findings.
Right.
And things that we've been able to verify as correct.
So Peter,
So, for instance, if you have a radioactive material and you know the decay of that radioactive material, you from there can infer how old something is based on the amount of material left in a specific substance. In order to
But
do
you're
that,
taking- you're
in order
taking
to do
a
that,
situation
in order to do that, you do not only look to the substance that is left, but you also look to the amount of daughter substance that has been produced in that specific material over time, and so it isn't based on a worldview. It isn't based on beliefs. It is based on facts.
but
And
the
religion
example that-
is the opposite. Religion will deny facts.
What is
The
the fact
example-
about
no.
the parent isotope?
the example that you gave is different from one that has complications that relate to theological and or anti-theological worldviews, right? That's the example that you gave, right? Evolution is
The problem is that you want to project your bias
It's not projection.
onto people who lack said bias.
No,
There
everybody
is no there
I
is
agree
no
that
there
there's a
is
projection from a
there
three-
is
a
no
theist
con-
bias. No, hold on.
There is no
I agree that there's a
no. I
projection
want to
from theist
let me
bias.
finish. There
You do
is
not
there
acknowledge
is
there's a projection of anti-theist bias.
there is no bias and there's no conspiracy within science in order to deny God, because that is basically what you're getting down to. Scientists don't want to
That's not what I'm
acknowledge
saying.
a God. It is. It is. If
No.
you say that modern science is dishonest and leaving out results just because they want to deny a specific God, then the only one
Not a
who's being
specific
dishonest is you, because that's
No.
a claim you need to prove.
That's not what I'm saying.
Only some do that.
That's not what I said. I said a theist, not a Christian. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You have one. If you're an atheist and your belief is that you don't know if there is or is not a God,
Mhm.
right? You have no belief in a deity.
It's actually not an atheist either. It's an agnostic.
No.
Would
No,
your-
that's an atheist.
That's an atheist. What I said was
Not in
what
the literature.
atheists claim that they identify as, right? If you have that biasy, you're going to automatically assume that the conclusions and the hypotheses that you come to based on the data and facts that are available to you is based on not a God. If you
Wrong.
are a
Wrong.
theist,
Wrong.
it's not a theist.
Wrong.
You
Wrong.
would assume that there's a God if there's not.
No, I would assume that if you come up with evidence, cold hard evidence for a God, then
How
that
do you
would be
prove there's a
adopted.
God?
That will be adopted in science.
How do you
If-
prove that there is a God?
That's not my problem. That's your problem. You're making the claim. You
I'm
provide
not
the
making
evidence.
the claim. You're saying that an atheist has no bias against God
I
when
don't.
you can't even define how there is.
I
or is
don't.
not a
If
God.
you come up, I said, if you come up with cold hard evidence for a God, I have to accept your cold hard evidence, whether
Peter,
or not
I'm
I
agreeing
like it,
with you.
whether or not I like it or not.
Can I
I'm
suggest
agreeing
that
with
that's
you that
The
there's
fact,
a
the
bias.
fact,
true?
there's a different thing. Would I worship that God?
No,
In case
Peter,
of the God of the Bible,
Peter.
my answer would be 100% no,
Peter,
because
I'm agreeing with you that theists have a bias that there is a God, hence them
Yes.
being a theist. And an anti-theist has a bias that there is no God because they're an anti-theist.
I'm an anti-theist.
Yeah, and you have a bias that there is no God.
No, I've got evidence. I've got for the gods
You have a
that I
bias,
claim.
not evidence.
Can I finish? For the gods that I claim do not exist, I have evidence.
You don't have evidence.
I do have evidence.
You have presumption.
No, I have evidence.
What evidence do you have?
Okay. Would you say that the Bible is in any way, shape, or form the source of information that we have about the Christian God?
The Bible is 100% all-encompassing the evidence that we have of the Christian God.
Okay. So, the Bible contains a God that is self-contradicting. So,
How so?
by definition, that God cannot exist.
How contradictory?
So if you want my evidence for the biblical
Contradictory
God,
based on the Arminianism point of view, but not the Calvinist point of view.
say again.
Contradictory on the Arminian point of view, but not on the Calvinist point of view.
I'm just going off of the book. I'm not picking on
Also on
a
the book.
specific.
One line of the book or the totality of the book?
The book claims that the God is omniscient
Right?
and omnipotent.
Okay.
Those are mutually exclusive.
What's one of
How
them's
are they
true, the other one's true.
Either one of them is true, or both of them are false, because
Or both is true.
they cannot both be true.
How can you not be omniscient and omnipotent?
If you're
If you're one,
omniscient,
you're the other.
if you're an omniscient, that means that you know the outcome of every single thing, right?
Right?
And if you're omnipotent, you're able to change the outcome.
Right?
So if you are able to change the outcome, you didn't know the final outcome. So those
No,
things
that's not
don't
true.
go together. Yes,
That is
yes,
not
it's true.
analogous.
That's a modal
It's
fallacy.
not true.
Okay,
It's
so
not
if God knows that within 10 minutes this stream will crash,
Right?
that's the final outcome. God
Not
knows
necessarily.
that. God knows that right now, right?
Love you.
Yeah,
Aaron.
there's-
And now Will Stewart is starting to pray and say, "Oh, please God, don't let the stream crash."
Right.
What can God do to contradict himself, knowing the final outcome?
Nothing. Because if he's
Exactly.
God, he can't catch.
So he's not omnipotent. So
No,
he's
he's
not
not
omnipotent.
foreknowledge. Foreknowledge.
He's not
has his
omnipotent.
will. He
No,
has
he's
his
not.
will.
No, he's not omnipotent. He can't do anything.
You're omniscient. If you know all possibilities of the outcome,
I didn't talk about will. I said about can
No,
he
you-
do
you
it?
did talk
And
about
you
will, but
said
you said
and you
omniscient.
no.
Omnipotence
I
is-
said what can God do to prevent the stream from crashing? You said nothing. That
No, that's
didn't.
not what I
I
said.
didn't ask about what he wants to do. I asked what he could do.
he could do anything he wants. That's my point. If he's
And if he did do
omnipotent-
something different, he would. He
If
would
he
have
did
known.
do something different, he wasn't omniscient because the final outcome
No,
was
that's
No,
not
because he
true.
would have known that. He would have known that already. What he was going to do.
you're doing reductionism based on the omniscience, right? If you're omniscient, you know every possibility of every outcome, correct?
Yes, and what you're skipping is that I had the final outcome for you. The outcome is
you
in 10
dictated the
minutes.
outcome, not God.
I'm saying you didn't listen to what I said.
I did listen.
Look up modal fallacy.
If God knows at this moment that this stream will crash in 10 minutes,
Okay.
if that is what God knows, I'm
If
not
that's
saying
what God
it
knows,
is.
that's what God.
I'm not saying it
Listen.
is. I'm not saying it isn't. It's a hypothetical.
Right. I
If
agree.
God knows
Thought
that this
experiment.
stream,
I'm willing to go.
yes, this stream will crash in 10 minutes. That is the final outcome.
Okay.
What can he do to change the final outcome if that is
Nothing,
the final
because
outcome?
that's what he wanted to do. If he's omniscient enough to
So he's
determine
not
that that's what's going to
omnipotent.
happen,
So he's not omnipotent, and
the
no
logical
matter how
fallacy.
hard people pray to him, nothing will change because
can
he's
God
unable.
create a box that he can't fit in?
He's unable. We don't even have to go that far. He's unable.
That's the same thing. That's the same
No,
argument.
it's not.
It is, Peter. I'm sorry.
If he
It
does
is.
something different, then he would have known different.
I just wanted to go to a more practical.
It's not practical.
Example.
It's the exact same argument. If God knows that the stream is going to end,
and what you're engaging in now is whataboutism, because what about
It's
this is
analogism.
exactly the same. Yes, and that is deflecting from the from the actual answer.
it's the exact same situation. If
It's
God
not.
knows the stream is going to end, what can he do?
I don't
before
care
then?
if it's the same situation. I care about the answer.
Do you think if God can't make a rock so big he can't lift it, that debunks?
I think that if I ask a question and people start asking me a different question in return,
It's not a
they're
different
obvious.
question.
You're not
They're
accepting the
obvious.
answer.
That's an obvious deflection,
It's not a deflection.
and that is proving my case.
No,
Modal
because-
fallacy is why you're wrong. Modal fallacy.
No, because then there's a disconnect.
Peter, let me ask you a question. Honestly, I love you as a brother. You're my friend. One of our good left wingers from Tottenham Hotspur comes from your country, and I appreciate you. I love you like a brother. My point is you say that God can end the stream.
let me respond to that. I'm not attacking you, Will. I think
I know.
and this has been said during the stream several times.
100 times.
A lot of people respect you because you're
appreciate
honest, and
Amen.
you don't get angry. You don't throw ad hominems. I think you're a great person to talk to, and
Thank
there are very few that I've met over my time. I was lucky enough that the last few guests that we had on our show were people like you, and I really
you, Peter, and
I
you're
really
one of the best
appreciate,
too.
even when it gets heated, that we can still talk and still look at each other at the way you just described, and that's
I'm
reciprocated.
not mad.
Guys, I think Kelly just wanted to jump in for a minute.
Yes, in fact, so Co-Champ, we're gonna let you jump in, and then we're coming up on hour 3, and so we're gonna give our final thoughts on did
Duvel.
Jesus
That's Belgian,
fulfill?
isn't it?
Yes, Belgium, good beer.
Yeah. See, you need to get Grolsch.
They don't sell gross in America anymore. I don't know why. You need to tell them, Peter.
They do. There's actually a brewery in the U.S.
It's really hard to find, Peter. I'm telling you, as an American,
I've heard that.
really
I've
hard to
heard that.
find.
I've heard that.
I'm gonna tell you right now. 10 years ago, it used to be really easy to find, but now it's really hard to find, and I don't know why.
For tomorrow, I'm drinking Grolsch on Arn's stream. Grolsch.
I love Grolsch, by the way.
Buck-
One of my
Buck
favorite
beer.
beers. It's not quite as strong as Duvel, but
No.
it's a good beer.
Yeah. What I'm drinking tomorrow
Cheers.
is 6.5% alcohol. Nice dark red, sweet beer. Really good beer.
Duvel's 8.5. I had this is what I had earlier tonight.
What's that called?
La Fin
Will-
du Monde.
Will, I need so tomorrow I'm going to do the show with Arn Ra. I will mention your name. I think we need to get you and Arn in a stream
Invite me, bro.
talking about evolution and religion and beer. I think Arn would like that.
Invite me.
Sounds like
I'll-
right up his alley.
I'll suggest it.
People tend to slate me because I'm not as provocative as others.
Nah.
All you
We
can do is be
like
you.
that.
That's who you are, right?
Yes, in fact, I use this word too much, but both you, Will, and Jamie have been mensches.
Jamie's great. He
Maybe even sunflower a little bit, not much, a little bit.
Sunflower every time he comes on here. It's basically, I'll do the same joke. Sunflower, every time he comes in chat, kinky, he's like, rah, 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 rah. And then he gets onto voice and he's like, okay, let's have a civil conversation. And I'm like, oh, okay.
He trolled
that
back
worked.
there hunting in chat today. He really triggered that.
I'm the same. I'm terrible on Twitter. I make enemies on Twitter all the time, and I put it down to a language barrier. My English in voice is, I think, pretty good. In writing, I'm not the best, and since there's no intonation and you only got 244 characters, I usually end up in all kinds of fights. So,
Jamie, I got your stuff. I screenshotted your stuff, so I got your email. As far as like 200 characters, I'm telling you, like in modern debate, unless I want to spend like $300 or something, in order to get everything I want to say in 200 characters, it's really difficult, especially if you want to be articulate.
It is, and it's why I started my YouTube channel and started inviting guests, and so, and that's going a lot better, and also I've got great co-hosts. I have to say.
That's right.
What's the channel, Peter? I'll subscribe.
And
I
maybe
subscribe to
soon
Amy and Oz.
Well, thank you, Peter. That's nice of you to say. Thanks.
Damn, I was just about okay. Good night, KO Champ. If you want, come back on. You can have a closer. We're just getting ready.
I think he'll be back. Yeah. Usually.
And okay, guys, so we're starting to wrap up now. Did Jesus fulfill prophecy? Bible burner.
Yes.
What are your thoughts?
I say definitely not. I don't know how you could call it prophecy. Nothing specific. I mean, there was nothing that, I wonder what the ancient people at the time, if they told somebody else this prophecy, what the guy next to them would actually think, like, would they be able to, say, hold on, let me get my shoes, let me go to this place and time, and I'll be there kind of thing, and I don't think anything like that exists. Everything's vague. Everything's very, Nostradamus kind of stuff.
Yeah, hard to prove wrong that way.
You got to look backwards in order to be able to fit everything together. You can never fit anything together if you were looking forward with it.
It's like, what Pharaoh? Any of them. It's just Pharaoh in Exodus.
Pharaoh. Night, KO Champ. It was nice having you on.
Why can't I hear anyone anymore?
That me? You, huh? And okay, so I think we'll go Peter, James, and Will, and then I'll take us out. So, Peter, did Jesus fulfill prophecy?
First, I want to address something that James put in the private chat here. James, you're right. At times, I get kind of dominant. That's something that I still need to work on. It is being addressed by several people, and I've got a few people that keep me in check when I really get out of hand, which is why I told Amy, I think a couple of shows back, if I go too far, just say, shut up, Peter, and that'll do the trick. So
you're very good most of the time.
If I was too dominant, for that, my apologies. I sometimes I get heated in these conversations, and I'm aware of it, working on it. So, and
as long as Will's okay with it, it doesn't bother him, I don't think.
I don't. Will, can you hear us?
It never. Will? Yeah, it does. For some reason, my audio went out. But yeah, Peter, bro, I love you, man. You're my bro. You're my.
I think we could have good conversations still.
Yeah.
There's no way. There's no animosity from my side. I can get heated when it comes to certain things within science, and that's just my passion. And I've come to recognize that theists have a similar passion. And if you allow a theist to get as heated as I do at times, then that already works for a good conversation. So, and if you just keep in mind that we're not attacking persons, we're attacking ideas, not persons, and then it should all be okay. So in the background, my dog is drinking, so I'm hoping that doesn't.
You can hear it. Good. He's thirsty. He needs a drink.
Yeah, it usually takes about a minute, 2 minutes for the dog to finish. So I'll try and talk over the sound. Okay, getting back. First, I want to thank Will again for coming on here. I think you've been on here a couple of times, and you always make for interesting conversation. So please keep joining. And I will mention your name tomorrow. I'll definitely will do that.
As long as Amy wants me to come on, I'll continue to come on. My only problem is that this is
of course,
atheist platform, and I don't want to monopolize it.
No,
well,
that we want theists to come on. We want dissenting opinions because we can have such strong voices ourselves. So we like that.
And I'll speak for Amy. I think what she would want to achieve is that we got a 50-50 panel, an equal amount of theists and atheists. That would be nice. I think
we're like a 4-1 right now. Tonight was like a 5-2, right?
See, it's never fair. It's never fair. And
but I'm okay with that. I like punishment, so I'm willing to accept it.
It was fun ganging up on you, Will.
I have a different prop for that.
Bioburn, I'm gonna tell you right now. Ask Amy. I called you out based on your comments on our Randolph debate, and I wanted you to come on and justify your opinions of me. But I think, regardless of my theistic views, I do have to say that I'm probably more of a respectful person than most theists, in my opinion, based on what my perception is of what you guys deal with on a daily basis.
You know, I'm not quite sure what I said in the chat, but I am embarrassed. I'm kind of embarrassed right now because you seem like a really nice guy. So, if I said anything that was, a bit out of line, I do apologize.
It wasn't necessarily out of line. It was simply that you were calling me like the tagline dishonest. But honestly, I have thick skin. I don't care. You can call me whatever you want because my beliefs are my beliefs.
Yeah. And not all theists are the same. Not all Christians are the same. So.
No, absolutely not. And like, if you look at the post-debate chat on MDD tonight, like Rian was like, he's like, all theists are dishonest. Like an empirical claim like that is absolutely absurd, right? And I was able to tear him up in the chat based on.
Who made that statement though? Because that sounds like a troll statement.
Yeah, Rian. REN.
I would go against that as well.
Because I'm not dishonest. I'm not.
I've met enough theists to know that you can't make that statement. They're not dishonest.
And my warning would just be: there's a lot of people making troll statements just because they're like, "That's right, come on, reply."
Yeah,
I have no problem with troll statements. Troll statements are great. But if you want to make an empirical statement, right, I called them out. I was like, you said all theists are dishonest. What evidence do you have to base that? And he's like, based on Sam's performance tonight. I'm like, so does Sam represent all theists?
Yeah, did he sign a waiver for that?
Just tonight.
I mean, I'll be honest. I think I met about the same amount of dishonest atheists as I have dishonest theists on here.
Right.
So
he was like,
it's not a belief thing. It's a human thing, I think.
In my life experience, all the theists that I've encountered have been dishonest. I was like, well, that's anecdotal, not empirical. And he was like, yes. You can't tell me what I think.
Argument of personal
right,
incredulity.
I don't. But your thought. Your experience is anecdotal, not empirical. And any person who denies that is absolutely logically an imbecile.
I would go as far as pretty much agreeing with that statement.
Yeah, because your life experience is anecdotal. It's not empirical.
And also there is no one person on planet Earth that represents everyone else.
Absolutely. And that's
not even on one specific point.
No love. No, lots of love for KO Champ. You should come back on.
Champ, come back on, bro. Come on.
Champ, get back in here and do your closing words.
I agree.
No, also I'll finish my closing words. Did Jesus fulfill prophecy? I don't think so. The prophecy in the Bible is too vague to even be prophecy. That's my first objection. The second one would be that the people who are mentioned in the New Testament obviously had access to the Old Testament. So in order for prophecy to be fulfilled, at least you wouldn't need people actively working to get a prophecy fulfilled. And then there's a prophecy, and that's my go-to, that Jesus should have been named Emmanuel, and he obviously wasn't. And I know there's a workaround for that it means the king or something like that. I'm not buying that. So no,
Savior.
Jesus did not fulfill prophecy.
All right. And so with that, we're going to move on to James. But in between James and Will, I am saving a spot for the KO Champ. So
come on, KO Champ, get back in there.
In between. And so with that, though, I'm going to hand it over to James. We've been Midnight Ranting. Did Jesus fulfill prophecy?
Well, actually, no, but I still want to thank everybody for having a good, lively discussion. And the debate was good. The conversation's good. It's been a lot of fun. Thanks, guys.
Woohoo! And okay. Well, I will hold. KO Champ, come join us. Do my ending before, but I'm going to hand it over to Will. Will, we've been Midnight Ranting. Did Jesus fulfill prophecy?
Look, I think if you're going to take it from the logical position that Jesus never existed, obviously he didn't fulfill prophecy. But if you're going to take it from the position that Jesus did exist, and there's 300 plus verses that he did. Regardless of that, I just want to say that theists aren't dogmatic. And that's my biggest position out of everything that I've ever said, is that theists don't push their theology on other people if they're honest from a Christian theistic perspective. And that's it.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank
we run
you
into
so
that sometimes.
very much. Well, yeah.
Once in
Hey,
a while.
if you're on Team Science and Team Not Dogma, we're already. That's 2/3 of.
That's my team.
There you go. And okay, KO Champ. We have been Midnight Ranting on Did Jesus Fulfill Prophecy? What are your thoughts?
I was kind of getting at it earlier, until I was highly interrupted. But I was getting at it earlier with, the whole Ice Age thing, until we begin to get into this 6,000-year young Earth argument, blah, 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 kind of debate. There's really no way of arguing against it. If you're admitting to science and you're saying, that all these different things came about before this other thing, then you've got to agree. What are you saying? That humans came about on Earth 6,000 years ago? Or
no?
Which portion are you admitting to? Because I mean, sure, God might have made animals before humans, but I mean, where did the rest of these creatures that predated humans? Where did they come from, and what is their relationship towards humans? Whether or not we can or cannot interbreed, none of that really makes any sense whatsoever. And so, when I take that token and I say, and I put that with history and what we can prove archaeologically and historically, it kind of all lines up. There's all these different faiths that predate, any Hebraic faith whatsoever. A lot of them have the same stories, going on with the same things, going, up or down, hell or heaven, and blah, blah, blah. They all have some sort of Jesus amongst them, and they predate Christianity. Even Taoism predates Christianity, and they have technically the same thing going on. But then you have, the Hebraic faith to come about, I would say, around 600 BC, but some would argue 800 BC. And yeah, I mean, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And so it's really ridiculous to try to make a statement that...
What was 600 BC,
Jesus...
Kale?
What's that?
600 BC, what happened then? I didn't catch it.
It's one of the pages that we found. So if you look at the 800 BC stuff, you're kind of looking at like the potential of something because of something that was written on a wall. But as far as like pages and people go, you're looking at around 600 BC.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So,
okay.
So yeah, I mean, after that, I mean, there's really nothing that amounts towards any sort of evidence whatsoever of any Hebraic faith whatsoever. So unless Noah and his people got off the ark in 800 BC, I mean, none of this makes any sense whatsoever. There's just no sense to be made of it. And if there's no sense to be made of that, then there's no sense to be made of whether or not Jesus fulfilled any sort of prophecy, because that prophecy can't be met. So it's not just coming from a whether or not Jesus existed standpoint. It's coming from a whether or not any of this existed standpoint. And that's it.
Woohoo! Okay, thank you, KO Champ. Well, then I hope you all had an awesome time on this episode of Midnight Ranting. Did Jesus fulfill prophecy? As we put Jesus on trial, along with the question of if he fulfilled prophecy. I want to thank James W., Will Stewart, Bible Burner, Randolph Richardson, KO Champ, Peter, Simos Funk, Colorado Biker, Titan, Uranus, Brian Stevens, Jay Mixon, A Bunny Z, Heat Shield, Indigo Butterfly, Spooky Bedhair, Sam Alvarado, and Robert. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that all button icon so you can be part of our live streams, or come join us after the stream for some memeing fun at our podcast Discord. Finally, if you'd like to help make more awesome content or support the channel, feel free to check out our Patreon at patreon.com/Amy Newman. I'm Amy Newman. I'll see you all on the next episode of Skeptic Ball Z.